my, can you imagine Dorsett and number 34 Walker in the same backfield? The Raiders dream of teaming number 30 Navy rookie Napoleon McCallum with Marcus, but the U.S. Navy has other plans for McCallum after tonight. Dallas and the Raiders. The Stars are out tonight.
Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. It's the Dallas Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Raiders. Brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Yugo. Everybody needs a Yugo sometime. And by American Airlines. Something special in the air.
It's a beautiful night in Southern California, cool and comfortable. The famed Coliseum, a late arriving crowd. We expect 60,000 tonight to see two teams that won their divisions last year, the Los Angeles Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys. Good evening, everyone. Dick Enberg with Merlin Olsen. So much to share with you this evening. Herschel Walker, the newest Cowboy, will be our guest at halftime. We'll also have a visit in the second half from the head man of the Raiders, a controversial chap, but he should share much of his football knowledge. Al Davis of the Raiders will be with us. It's instant replay time of the year, and we're not only going to show that device from the perspective of the press box, but take you into our NBC facilities to just show you how those instant replays work. And in between it all, we'll have some good football, we hope.
Dick, both these teams were embarrassed. In fact, shut out last week. One thing you have to know about both the Cowboys and the Raiders, these are proud football teams. I'm sure the intensity of practice went up this week, and we're going to see some good football tonight.
Well, Merlin, this is like going to a preview of a Broadway show. You'd like to see the stars and focus on one player or another. Whom will you be watching most closely?
A couple of very interesting people. For the Raiders, I'll be looking at Jim Plunkett, out since the third game of the season last year, has not taken a hit on an injured left shoulder. We'll be keeping an eye on him.
Plunkett at 38, working on his 9th life with the Raiders. How about the Cowboys?
A new face that's been somewhat overlooked, Mike Sherrard. And, of course, a great receiver out of UCLA with the kind of speed the Cowboy defense tells me that scares them. So I'm going to be interested in watching him as well.
And there's the head man, the dean of the NFL coaches, Thomas Wade Landry, at age 62 in his 27th year. They have never had another coach, and Landry seemingly ageless. And Tom Flores, boy, the years piling up for him. This will become his 8th year as the headmaster of the Raiders.
I was amazed in talking to both those head coaches how well they were able to accept. They didn't like losing last week, especially being embarrassed, but their priorities are very clear. Get those teams ready for the opener. I think their attitude will change a little bit tonight because they're going to play their veterans longer, perhaps a full half for most of them.
Chris Barr will kick it off. You see two of the top 3 teams in terms of record since the 1960 season, the Raiders, then the Dolphins, and the Cowboys, the 3rd best overall mark in that span. There's Barr. He'll be kicking to the other end. The Cowboys in white. Robert Levette, number 29, and 86, Kenny Duckett. And we're underway from Los Angeles. Spins down to Duckett, takes it right out of his teammates' hands. He's at the 15 and struggles to the 22. Check the Dallas Cowboy lineup as veteran Danny White brings on the offense. There's the offensive line. Rafferty in the middle with Kerr and Titans at the guards. Cooper and Richards will play the offensive tackle slots. The veteran Tony Hill at one wide receiver spot. Doug Cosby will not start tonight. He's home celebrating the birth of a new baby. Carl Poe, a second-year man, the other wide receiver. Newsome and Dorsett in the backfield with Danny White. And it'll be Fred Cornwell starting for Cosby at tight end. Cornwell, who played here as a collegian in the Coliseum for Southern California, wears 85. Dorsett ducking around the corner, and he picks up a good gain to the 36-yard line, make it the 37. And a first down, a gain of 15 for Dorsett. Against this Raider defense, probably second only to the Bears in the NFL last year in effectiveness. Pickell on the nose. Sean Jones replaces Lyle Alzado at one defensive end, and Howie Long, one of the game's very best, at the other. The linebackers Van Pelt, Millen, McKenzie, and Rod Martin. At the corners, Lester Hayes and Mike Haynes, and Van McElroy and Mike Davis, the veteran safety men. First down, Cowboys, just across their 36-yard line. Bring Cornwell in motion, and the throw is complete. Number 81, Carl Poe, the second-year man from Alabama State, and he has 14 more as the Cowboys enter the Raiders' half of the field.
This Cowboy offense sputtered last week. Only 6 first downs against the San Diego Chargers. Not reckoned as one of the great defenses in football, but White gets them off quickly here, completing that pass nicely after an excellent run by Dorsett. Cowboys moving quickly on a very fine Raider defense.
50-yard line dissects the ball. 2 plays, 2 first downs for Dallas. They were shut out by San Diego last week, 20-0. Dorsett threw a huge hole to the 38-yard line, and another big check that the 43-yard line, another pickup of 8 yards.
I've got to wonder what impact all of this talk about Herschel Walker has had on the energy level and the adrenaline level of Tony Dorsett. Watch him now from ground level. He's just exploded in these first 2 runs. I'm sure that he wants to look very good tonight, and I don't blame him.
He wears 33, and that man will wear number 34. Herschel Walker will be visiting with Walker at halftime. Get his feelings about this very busy week and some of the comments of the Cowboys, who didn't take kindly to his big new salary. Tony Hill has another Dallas first down at the 31-yard line, and already in 4 plays, the Dallas offense has done something they couldn't do a whole game last week, get inside the 35.
And they do it under great pressure from number 75, Howie Long, who takes White down. But White able to get the ball off to Tony Hill. Tony's gotten his weight down to about 200 pounds, has shed about 15 extra that he came to camp with. And I think it makes a difference in his quickness.
4 plays, 15 yards, 13, 7, and now 12 more picked up on that Hill reception. First down at the 32. Dorsett, and for the first time, the Raider defense able to stop the Cowboys with a short gain. Mike Davis, 36, coming up from strong safety to make the hit, the veteran from Colorado.
I think just looking down from up here at that turf, I have never seen this Coliseum floor, this turf, in better condition. They've actually gone in and skinned the whole turf, put in new sod, and it not only looks good, but it's very thick, excellent footing, the best I've ever seen it.
Second down for the Cowboys and 8. Newsome with Dorsett in the backfield. Hill near side. Poe is flanked to the right. Dorsett, they're keeping him busy. Breaks a couple of tackles, and Dorsett down to the 26-yard line before Stacy Toran, number 30, second-year man, or make it his 3rd year out of Notre Dame. He was impressive last year, replacing the injured Mike Davis.
You've got to have that great pursuit against a runner like Dorsett. Look at that little stagger step and then breaks outside. Gets away from Mike Davis, number 36. Lester Hayes tries to shoulder him down. You don't get a good back down that way. There's a sure tackle by number 30, Stacy Turan, but he picked up almost 5 yards in the process.
Dorsett over 1,000 yards as he has been in 8 of his 9 years. The only time he did not gain 1,000 was the strike year, and he was well on a 1,000-yard pace that season. 3 yards for a first down, and it's incomplete, broken up by Mike Haynes, the All-Pro from Arizona State, and the Cowboys apparently will have to settle for 3. You know, Dallas has not scored a touchdown this year. Now that goes back to their 1 playoff game against the Rams. They were shut out, and then in their first preseason game they got only 2 field goals over in London against the Bears, and shut out last week by San Diego.
In fact, you can go back 3 more quarters into that last game they played against the San Francisco 49ers, because they only got a touchdown in the first quarter of that game.
It'll be Max Zendejas, the 4th-round draft pick from the University of Arizona, trying a long one, 44 yards. He's fighting with Septien for the place-kicking job. It is wide to the right, no good. So the Cowboys offense impressive immediately, and then fails to score. Defensive coach Earl Leggett doing some schooling even for the veteran starters along the sidelines, as on the field the Raider offense for the first time, and Jim Plunkett in his 16th NFL year, the former Heisman Award winner out of Stanford, and he's been very successful, given up for lost. You'll recall a few years ago, released by the 49ers in '78, signed by Oakland as a free agent. His first 2 years with the Raiders, he threw only 15 passes, and now has led him to a couple of Super Bowl championships and trying to win back that starting job. He'll play the first half tonight. Marcus Allen, who was the leading rusher in the NFL last year, gets the call for 3. And here is that black jerseyed Raider offense. Mosbar, a giant at center. Marvin and Marsh are the guards, and Davis and Lawrence, that same lineup in front of Plunkett, Hester and Williams outside with Todd Christensen, who has had 3 straight 80 reception years at tight end. Hawkins joins Marcus Allen behind Jim Plunkett.
Cowboys open up with their best, Dorsett. Raiders counter with Marcus Allen.
Both wide receivers to the left. And Plunkett's first throw is in there, and a first down at the 40-yard line. Eugene Lockhart wrestling to the turf as Jesse Hester comes up with a reception. Against this defense, Jeff Coat, Randy White, all pro every year for almost a decade. John Dutt now is going to be relied upon next to Ed Jones because of the injury to Kevin Brooks. We'll get into that. Rohr, Lockhart, and Hegman are the backers for the Cowboys. Fellows with a bad knee, and Everson Walls, 3 times interception leader in the NFL at the corners, and Downs and Bates at safety. Dexter Clinkscale still is not reported to the Dallas camp. Plunkett inside handoff to Marcus for a couple to the 42-yard line. The quarterback Danny White. Less pressure on this man this year with the trade of Gary Hogeboom to the Indianapolis Colts. Steve Pallor, we'll see in the second half, will back up White. And Mark Wilson, the Raiders want him to grab that job right by the throat and not let go. There are a lot of doubters, though, here in Los Angeles about whether or not Wilson, despite the 11-2 mark, is the quarterback that's going to lead the Raiders back into the Super Bowl.
He's got to prove himself, and he knows that, Dick. He really does.
They say he's had a great camp. They usually say that about someone you want to take the job. Hester with his second reception and a first down at the Dallas 47. 11 more yards for the Raiders. Ron Fellows on the coverage.
Well, if you have your pencil out and you're grading number 16 Jim Plunkett, mark him perfect. 2 for 2 right here. Nice pass.
Frank Hawkins did a good job of protecting Plunkett, and Plunkett, who is as light as we've seen him in a few years, he looked very quick in setting up, didn't he?
You know, he was concerned coming into this game. We mentioned he hadn't taken a hit on that shoulder, and he said, hey, it still hurts. That left shoulder still hurts. But I think the adrenaline is pumping pretty good for him tonight.
He wants that job back. Play action. Plunkett going for it all. Marcus Allen incomplete. Down at the 20-yard line. Well, during the course of the game, 2 members of the NFL office will be at their desk watching 2 monitors and the instant replays. They have control themselves. In fact, there they are. That's the booth, at least, in the 2 monitors. Don Weiss is in there, and Norm Schachter, a former referee. And what they can do is, well, if you had 2 videotape recorders at home, at any time you could be taping the game and replay at that moment the play you've just seen. They can do that as well as replay any replay that we show. That's basically where the decisions
replay
will be made. Dougie Williams in motion on 2nd and 10. Allen to the 41-yard line. Gain of 6. So first, let's just take their position. They could replay the play you've just seen as we showed it, which would be this replay. Meanwhile, one of the men watching the other monitor could say, OK, on a replay, this one, we'll tape that one and replay it in case we wanted to see if there was a violation.
Of course, they're doing that to examine whether or not the call has been made correctly. And again, we've said it several times, but that's being done because the NFL really wants to take the bad calls out of the game where they can.
I think inspired by the coaches more than any one group. 4 yards for a first down. Plunkett going for more than that. It was way too long, and it's intercepted by Michael Downs. And the safety of the Cowboys is out of bounds at the 11-yard line. Jesse Hester knocked him out of bounds, and Dallas will take over.
Billy Bates on the blitz. And Plunkett's taken his first hit. He bounced back up. He's all right. And I think that's necessary anytime you're injured.
Want to see this? Watch number 40, Bates, right of your picture.
He'll come screaming in and smack Plunkett right there. Jimmy taking his first shot, and that ball traveling long as it often does when the quarterback is under pressure. The Cowboys have it. Their offensive unit is on the field. Dick, I think anytime you've had an injury, though, you're so concerned about that first shot. Plunkett bounced back up off the field. He's on the sideline now, and I think that helps. He knows now that, well, I've taken the first one. That helps. I've at least got that behind me.
And the interception served as well as a punt, as Dallas will start at the 11. It wouldn't have been 4th down. They were out of field goal range anyway. So the Cowboys scoreless halfway through this opening quarter. Fast paced, each team moving the ball but failing to score. Danny White batted in the air and complete, and a flag is down.
A very anxious Raider defense. Howie Long had jumped early. A very long count by Danny White, and I think someone did get offsides, maybe lined up offsides.
Bob Frederick indicating a violation against the Raiders.
Defense, offside, number 91. Replay of first down.
Now, if that were a controversial offside, that would not be one of the times they would use an instant replay. You can basically wipe out all the penalties. There's a rare exception like 12 men on the field where they'd use the instant replay. Mostly it's going to be possession and whether a player is in bounds or has crossed the plane.
Was it a fumble? Was it a reception? Was the man in bounds, or was he in the end zone? Those are the questions.
2nd and 10 from the 1st and 5 from the 16 now for the Cowboys. And Timmy Newsome gets his first call. And the big fullback from Winston-Salem State, a school of 2,200 students, has about 4. Howie Long.
A little Howie Long in there. In order to play good football, you have to have emotion. You can't play this football game at a constant bzzz. Howie doesn't have any trouble with that.
You always seem to, though. You didn't show any emotion. You mean you really got mad sometimes?
Did you watch me play Conrad Dover?
I do remember times you went right into the St. Louis Cardinal
I went in a couple of times to visit with those offensive linemen. If they wanted to make me mad, all they had to do was reach up and grab my face mask, and they had to get me started.
That was the one you didn't
That's
like.
it. I hated that.
From the 20, the Cowboys 2nd and 1. Be good enough for a first down to Tony Hill, kind of dragging underneath the coverage as they clear deep, and Hill, who will start this year with 430 catches, has his 2nd tonight.
You see the clearing out on the outside, 2 receivers in the same area as the Raiders had brought Lester Hayes over, both of their cornerbacks moving over to the right-hand side. But it was an excellent pattern by Tony Hill, a very sure set of hands, and well, I tell you, that's so important to have that kind of control.
6 minutes remaining in a scoreless first period. White getting away from Mike Davis and then throwing crossfield complete to his tight end Fred Cornwell, who draws a crowd of Raiders. Reggie McKenzie there first. Boy, a dangerous pass right into the thick of the Raider defense, but it worked.
An absolutely incredible pass when you consider White was going one way, Cornwell the other, and White was under a lot of pressure. Howie Long is going to go inside on a stunt here, but watch him. He's totally out of the play, and yet he doesn't stop. Stops and comes back to the outside, hustling all the way across, and he's actually going to get there to get a piece of that tackle.
Oh.
Now that's the kind of play that inspires you. If you're a coach, you say, hey, watch Howie on this one.
That's why he's been in the Pro Bowl 3 straight years. On 2nd and 6. Picked off by Lester Hayes, and Hayes is back to the Dallas 30. He'll start the year with that number representing how many career interceptions? 37 for number 37.
Lester Hayes in that familiar man-to-man bump and run kind of defense. He's right on top of his man, and that ball was tipped. That ball was tipped.
Howie Long got it.
Carl Poe, the intended receiver, he tried to come back and get a piece of Lester. In fact, he did get a piece of him. Actually able to get him down on the ground.
Lester Hayes caught the ball, but the man who made the interception was Howie Long. He got a big mid up in the face of White and deflected that pass. Brought it back to the original line of scrimmage, the 30. Raiders with a chance. First quarter. Frank Hawkins with a carry for about 3. A 210-pound fullback from Nevada, Reno. Jeff Rohr made the tackle for Dallas. These two teams will meet again, and we'll be pleased to bring you that game on NBC early in November down at Texas Stadium.
Second down, 7 yards to go.
What are your thoughts about Herschel Walker and joining this Cowboy team? I know when we were in London, you felt that Dallas team was kind of buzzing, as you put it earlier. They were a little...
I think they were just winding down a little bit. I think it gives them a tremendous shot. I think it's going to make a big difference.
2nd and 7. Almost intercepted, intended for Marcus Allen, overthrown, and Michael Downs, who already has 1 interception, was the closest Cowboy. Jim Plunkett. He was the first player picked back in 1971 after his Heisman year at Stanford. Dan Pastorini and Archie Manning were drafted that same year as quarterbacks.
Great year for quarterbacks.
They're gone now, but Plunkett stays on.
Look at this. Interesting that we could have, well, we have him here. Herschel Walker, not uniform. 4 Heisman Trophy winners. Oh, that's most unusual.
And Napoleon McCallum, who got a lot of votes last year, the Navy star. Plunkett on 3rd and 7. And a great catch by Hester. Now they say he did not have control as he hit the ground. Everson Walls on the coverage.
Partisan crowd here booing that call by the officials.
And another pushing match in the center of the field. Now that's a replay that perhaps those in the NFL box will be looking at again to see whether or not the replay will show irrefutable evidence. And here's our replay, which they'll be taping and looking at too if they wish.
Well, and that's one of the problems that we'll run into. There was no way to tell on that particular angle, from that angle.
Maybe this one.
This one will give you a little better look at it. I think they were right, Dick. From that angle, it would appear that that ball was touching the ground before it was under control.
On 4th down and 7, a long field goal try of just over 44 yards for Chris Barr. Mark Wilson to hold. Earlier, Zendejas missed from 44 for Dallas. Let's see about Barr.
Oh, that's a free ball.
Down at the 18-yard line. And the Dallas Cowboys, Eugene Lockhart, number 56, comes up with a pumpkin. So neither team able to connect on a field goal. Barr is blocked.
Michael Downs right here, a breakdown by the right side of the Raiders protection. The ball coming here. Now watch as Downs steps forward, and right there knocks that ball away. Great play, very alert play, and a breakdown, as I said, by the Raiders special teams.
So Downs has an interception and a block already in this first quarter. 4 minutes 2 seconds remain. It's scoreless. Danny White goes to work. And it's Dorsett with a flag down, crossing the 20-yard line. Reggie McKenzie, one of the McKenzie twins to break into the NFL last year out of Tennessee, made the hit, and it's holding against Dallas.
Talking about looking ahead to the season, second week of the season, we'll see both twins in action as we go back to cover the Raiders in Washington, Dick.
Bob Frederick marking off the 10 yards.
Steve Holding, number 68. First down will be repeated.
Crawford Kerr with the guilty party.
Number 99, Sean Jones, dragging Howard Richards across the field with him as he goes across to get a piece of that. Crawford Kerr, they call him Big Daddy. Made a lot of friends out there in that training camp area.
Oh, you've had a fight every day. 6'3" and 293. The 24-year-old second-year man from Florida playing at right guard position. First down 20. Newsome in motion, and it's Dorsett breaking through to the 19, and he was one man away from going a long way. Rod Martin got him.
One of the interesting stories on the field, Junior Miller, number 90. Landry very impressed. Laid out of football last year. Here he is in the center of your screen, number 90, screening off. It looks like Lester Hayes on that play. Who is it? Mike Davis? Mike Davis, I guess. But Tom is very impressed with this group of tight ends. So these are the biggest tight ends we've ever had. They know how to block, and they know how to catch the football as well.
They said in his 27 years it's the best group he's ever seen in the Dallas camp. With Cosby and Cornwell, Salonen, Thornton Chandler, the rookie from Alabama, and Junior Miller, who made the Pro Bowl as a rookie with Atlanta in 1980. Flag down, wide open, and out of bounds on the near side goes Carl Poe. But will it count? 4 yards if. Motion against the Cowboys.
Dick, in our opening game from London, we were covering the Cowboys, we talked about the new offensive wrinkles that are going to be instituted by Paul Hackett, who's come in to help revitalize the Cowboy passing game. We won't see a lot of that tonight because Tom Landry believes he wants to keep that stuff under wraps till their opener against the Giants. However, they will run some of the patterns from
Illegal
their
motion
formations.
on the offense. Down will be repeated.
Landry has always believed in working his troops slowly toward that opening game. In fact, he's won 21 of the last 22 opening games. Now that's some kind of record.
Indeed, especially well, that many times they've been a target of the opposition starting a year after a great season. 2nd and 15. Dallas at its 13-yard line.
Look out.
Here's the first sack of the game as Howie Long with an assist to Sean Jones gets White back at the 4-yard line.
Howie was lined up right on the nose on that particular play. That's one of the things that Earl Leggett will do, is to move Howie around. Here he is right in the middle. Watch him now as he just blows his way past the center on this play, Tom Rafferty. And look out, Danny White, because you're not going to have a chance to get this one away. I don't think there's a football player in the country who has a better blend of strength and speed than Howie Long. And you just saw why they hate to see him. I'll tell you, he gives those offensive linemen fits.
Well, the Raiders camp. No one can block him there. They tried 2 and 3 against his 1. 3rd and 26 from the Cowboy 3. Not many plays for this situation from his own end zone. Shotgun White. Almost deflected into the hands of Mike Haynes. And the Cowboys will have to kick from deep in their own end. Jeff Barnes, a speedy linebacker in his 10th year from California, there to break up the pass to Poe.
The Cowboy offense, after a very hot start, kind of settling back into the rut that they found themselves in against the San Diego defense.
Napoleon McCallum is in. That's the heralded player out of the University or the Naval Academy, and this will be the end of his 30-day leave. He goes back to a Long Beach ship where he's a supply officer. Ensign McCallum stands at the 45. Mike Saxon to kick. It's a beauty. High spiral. McCallum at his own 48. And down at the 46 of Dallas. Here's a timeout at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. 2 minutes and 7 seconds remaining. First quarter, no score. It'll be great as the pennant races wind down. Something like 45 to 50 games left. The Mets and the Dodgers Wednesday night. There's McCallum on, well, tomorrow he goes back to Long Beach, California. A supply officer on a helicopter assault ship based there. It reminds you of another Navy man, Roger Staubach, who was a 10th round pick of Dallas in '64. He served his 5 years. That's Marcus Allen getting some extra yards down near the 41 of Dallas. Staubach 5 years later in 1969 joined the Cowboys and still rates as the all-time most popular Dallas player, and of course now in the Hall of Fame. And there's a guy that's headed in the same direction.
Very popular in Dallas, not so popular with other teams. White going to the outside, still gets back inside to get a hand on Marcus Allen, but kind of hard to tackle Marcus with one hand. You need to get your body in there.
2nd down and 5. Allen again. No room that way.
Look out.
And he's down for a loss back at the 50-yard line. Maybe the 49 of Dallas.
We've got 2 backs on the field tonight who can make that move. You've got to have great speed to be able to turn when you've broken to the outside and go all the way back across the field. Marcus Allen and Tony Dorsett both have done that, have been able to do that over their careers. In fact, some of their most amazing and outstanding runs have come when they've done that. Not that time, however.
And yet, if you had them run a 40-yard dash against teammates, they don't have that kind of speed. They call it competitive speed.
Football speed, usable speed.
In fact, Allen told me yesterday, he said, I'm the 4th fastest back on the team right now. Plunkett needs big yardage. And down he goes. Bill Bates, number 40, from his safety position. Body slam Bill has the first Dallas sack, a 13-yard loss.
When a quarterback is rusty, one of the first things you want to do is put the pressure on it. You can do that in many ways. You shift the defenses around, and obviously you come with the blitz. Bates got him earlier with the blitz, and here he is again, taking Plunkett to the ground. Oh, he's fitting into that defense, that starting assignment within the defense very comfortably, isn't he?
Indeed. Gordon Banks is deep as Ray Guy set to punt for the Raiders. He'll kick it from around his own 28. There's Banks, a former Stanford player, USFL the last 3 years. A dime kick to the far sidelines. Good bounce for Guy. Inside the 10 and down at the 7. Stephon Adams downing the ball as Guy, who talked to him yesterday as well, he said, distance is no longer my theme. I'm kicking for position. He said, in fact, I've asked Al Davis for a practice field that's half as wide as a normal field, so I can just work on narrowing that corridor to kick to a spot.
Raiders extremely happy. Felt that Guy may have had his best year ever last year. And
he did a net punting average.
Net punting average. And I agree with you. I would like to see the NFL use that as the criteria to measure these punters instead of the gross average, because that's really the one that makes the difference.
Right, that takes into account the 20 yards that they give a punter, but not a team when the ball goes in the end zone. Also, it means that you're kicking so your men can cover well. So Dallas pinned deep from the 7. Newsom, a couple. Reggie McKenzie with a tackle. And that is the end of the first quarter. So the Cowboy string of shutout quarters runs to 16. No score. That was the story last week for both teams.
Dick, you know, we both have a lot of memories here in this Coliseum. Do you remember the day you worked on the top of this box into a little tape recorder for your audition for the Los Angeles radio job?
That was in the early 1960s, and somehow I was able to get Chuck Benedict was a friend in the Ram organization, and he got me a table upstairs, and I had a couple of people that taught with me out at Cal State Northridge as my spotters. It cost me $35 for an engineer. That was all I had, so that I could show Dan Reeves, then the owner of the Rams, that I could do play-by-play.
Look what it now, for all of you out there who want a job in the broadcast booth, get a little tape recorder.
Well, we have some people upstairs tonight getting ready for the season with NBC, doing almost in the same spot where I did my audition. This is Fred Cornwell, the tight end, getting the Cowboys out of that deep end of the field out to about the 24-yard line, a 14-yard gain. First quarter statistics, only 12 yards rushing for the Raiders.
Much more impressive defensive statistics than offensive statistics as you look down the numbers, which are not very good for either team. Time of possession even, and basically a defensive game to this point, Dick. Fred Cornwell, this is a very important evening for him with Junior Miller and Thornton Chandler playing so well behind him. He's concerned about making this roster.
Now he might be an endangered species. Dorsett, who had said earlier in the week, why don't you trade me, make Herschel Walker your star? I don't want to play second fiddle to anyone. And some people think, how about, what are your thoughts, Merlin? Do you think Dorsett will finish the year as a Cowboy?
I don't know. I'm not so sure that Dorsett and Walker are compatible. They both have been featured soloists, Dick, and they both have been the lifeblood and the core of an offensive unit. And I don't know if there's room. You know, it's like there ain't room in this town for the two of us. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Asking Itzhak Perlman and Isaac Stern to play a duet.
A lot of pressure, I think, on Walker. I think he has to make the major adjustments in this situation.
2nd and 9. White has a man. Tony Hill at the 34, wrapped up by Mike Haynes. 8 or 9 yards. It'll be close to a first down depending on the mark.
Tony Hill going around in circles, trying to get a little extra room here. Watch him as he takes this pass. He knows he's got a couple of defenders right on top of him. Mike Haynes, you see him, he tried to twist away, and Mike just waited for him and then pounced on him along with Stacy Turan. That hurts when they twist you up like that, too.
Tony Hill comes out in short yardage as they make the measurement just shy of the first down. Thornton Chandler has come in as a second tight end. Well, now they're going to measure again. And indeed, not quite enough.
Cowboys had sent Howard Richards over to stand over the referee's shoulder to make sure he did that properly. I think I might pay attention to what I was doing. He's starting, by the way, in place of Chris Schultz tonight on that Cowboy offensive line.
Yeah, you talk about the instant replays and all those decisions, and yet there's all the human error that goes into the marking of the ball, where there was the knee down, the measurement of the 10 yards, and many times just where the official may have spotted the ball. I think one of the risks of the instant replay is it heads us toward a robot age, and I'm fearful of that.
Can you imagine robot players?
Hey, how about announcers?
A soundtrack in the booth? Well,
Timmy Newsome has the first down at the 35, a hard-earned foot. Matt Millen, 55, led the charge.
Millen's responsibilities, I think, increasing as Lyle Alzado departs. Alzado, of course, a part of the lifeblood of the defense, certainly an emotional kind of a leader. Matt Millen has had to take over a little more of that responsibility. Again, the kind of player that seems to have an impact on those around him.
He says he's a 3P man, pushing, pointing, and punching.
He does do that. He does do that.
His nickname's Spike, and you look at him, you say,
you know why.
What else?
You know why. One of the great nicknames for sure.
From the 35, first down, and White looking to the peristyle end of the Coliseum where that 30-second clock was not operative. There it is, up against the marble facing. Many of the, if you ever here at the Coliseum, have a chance to wander.
Reset the 30-second clock. Reset the 30-second clock.
Plaques honoring some of the great Olympians from the 1932 games, and added to that will be some of those from the '84 Olympics hosted here at the Coliseum.
Sure, put up that kind of stats. Talk about my Rams.
First down. White on a roll. And it's Cornwell again. The tight end has a first down at the 49. So Fred Cornwell with his third catch tonight and 13 more Dallas yards. Make that 4 receptions for Cornwell.
13-yard gain on the play.
It's time some guys get mad. When everybody gets mad, the offense will finally start going places, says Danny White. I think that's what he said after last week's shutout.
Game. He was uncharacteristically vocal after that game, and I think he's right. A number of the other Cowboys have said, hey, we got to get ourselves moving here. First quarter didn't happen.
Well, they moved the times. Neither team able to score. White dumping off. And Newsome break that Tony Hill for 2 or 3 yards to the Raider 47. Rod Martin. Big play. Rod Martin made the tackle.
Little outlet pass by Danny White. He wants to get downfield after the play action movement there, but when he couldn't find a receiver downfield, flipped it outside. Tony Newsome down on his knees right there, but able to pick up a few.
And Reggie McKenzie may have been injured on that hit.
Tonight's game is brought to you by America's Best Back Trucks. At Dodge, we don't just talk tough, we prove it.
It's glare on the peristyle end. McKenzie able to come off the field under his own power. He was in on that tackle. It appeared that he went in head first and may have jammed his neck as they work on him on the near sidelines.
They have pinched a nerve as you see them manipulating his neck.
No score, just under 12 minutes remaining in the first half. A reminder, Herschel Walker, the newest Cowboy, will be with us at halftime. Screen to Dorsett. He's got running room. 40. He's to the 30-yard line and out of bounds. A first down for Dallas. A drive that started back on the Cowboy 8-yard line. And Dallas moving very effectively now to the Raider 30. 17 yards on that play.
When you play against an aggressive defense, one of the ways in which you can take advantage of them is to let them get in and then flip that little screen pass. Dorsett, a perfect screen back, because once he's into the open field, he has great acceleration and great speed.
You must have hated the screen as a defensive line.
Oh, I did, because you think you've got that quarterback dead to rights, and then he just flips it over your head, and you've got to scramble as fast as you can to try and get back into the play.
Dallas with only 2 field goals against the Bears to represent 16 quarters of scoring, trying to get a touchdown. White. Dorsett incomplete, and he was well covered and manhandled by Matt Millen.
Well, football is kind of a family affair, Dick, and there's an interesting family relationship as you look at the video equipment that's being used to tape this game for the two teams. Bob Friedman is the film editor, film control expert for the Dallas Cowboys. His son Max handles the same job for the Raiders, and his son Mitch does the same job for the Chicago Bears. So it really is a family affair for those guys.
McKenzie at jam neck, apparently all right. And state of the art now in football, no longer will a coach be able to say, I have to wait to look at the films. All the NFL teams are using videotape as of this year.
About $500,000, in excess of $500,000 invested by each team to put that equipment to work.
2nd and 10 at the Raider 30. If you look at the snap taken by Danny White, and flags go down. He may not have beaten the 30-second clock.
Flag on the way.
Offensive delay of the game.
That's the
5-yard penalty.
couldn't quite get it off in the 30.
Dick, you mentioned the injury earlier to Kevin Brooks of the Dallas Cowboys. Another injury that they certainly have been concerned about is that to Mike Renfro, their most productive receiver last year. But that certainly does open the gates and open the way for Mike Sherrard, their top draft pick, who's now in the ball game.
He is wearing number 88. Sherrard from UCLA is slotted to the right. He has blazing speed, under 4.3. And they trying to get him deep. But there's a mix-up on that pattern as Sherrod checked at the line of scrimmage, could not get down the sidelines, and Poe was cutting over the middle. Let's see what happened.
Got to be a little pressure on him here tonight. You know, emotionally, your first game as a rookie and his first opportunity, his legs have to be a little weary too. He just made it into camp this last week, getting a little bit of physical action there from Mike Haynes. And I'll tell you, that's not a bad way to start against this Raider defense. They make you earn all of that yardage.
And on his first pattern, he had to work against an 8-time Pro Bowler in Mike Haynes, number 22.
Haynes not quite 100%, has had some hamstring problems in training camp this year. In fact, was beaten a couple of times last week in that 49er game.
From the spread. In the grasp of number 93, Greg Townsend, and a flag with it.
Flag was down first. Let's see if someone was offside. Townsend, of course, the number 4 defensive lineman, goes in a 4-man rushing situation, and those Raiders can put some real terrorizers on that line when they want to.
And if that sack is allowed, it's going to take the Cowboys out of field goal range.
Gordon Wells there talking to Bob Frederick. And very often more than one man will move in that defensive and offensive line. I think that's what they're asking now. Was there movement on the offensive side?
I'm wondering too, Merlin, and already in this game there seems to have been longer conferences and the officials being more careful. They've got the big eye over their shoulder, that instant replay, and I just wonder if there isn't going to be a little more hesitation and they're not going to call it quite so quickly. It really is an invasion of their work, that instant replay.
I think it's something that will take time for them to get comfortable with. I don't think I'd like it looking over my shoulder.
After discussion, there was no foul on the play, and the flag will be picked up.
Flag will be picked up.
So the sack is allowed. The Raiders, who were second only to the New York Giants last year in sacks. The Giants had 68 and the Raiders 65, and they have another here this evening. And now Dallas will have to punt it. Mike Saxon and the kicking team in. Napoleon McCallum down at the 10-yard line.
Raiders like it much better when their team is making the sacks, not being sacked. They were sacked 12 times, the Raiders were last week.
And Saxon just had to punt 12 times. He said it's the first time he's played in a game where his leg was tired.
Punters usually don't have to shower, Dick.
floater. McCallum won't attempt to field it. And it kicks into the end zone. The touchback at the 20 for the Raiders.
Ball goes into the end zone.
And with 10 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in the first half, still no score. As an officiating device, the instant replay. And a very fine report coming up at halftime. And we'll meet Herschel Walker of the Dallas Cowboys, multi-millionaire, also at the intermission, so stay with us. No score. 10 minutes, 40 seconds left in the half, and Plunkett setting his line at his own 20. Goes long. Hester was out of bounds at midfield. Could not get both feet in.
Hester in his second year, showing you that he's gained some maturity as he keeps Ron Fellows turned away. Fellows playing man-to-man. Now watch Hester at the last minute. He does not put his hands up until the last second. Fellows looking away, lost the ball, but there's no question on this one. That ball carried Hester out of bounds. Had he been able to keep those feet in bounds, that would have been a big gain.
Hester in motion. And this is the rookie Vance Mueller from Occidental College. He was their number 4 draft pick and is the fastest back in camp for the Raiders. Was a long jumper at Occidental, 24 feet 9.5 inches, was on their 400-meter relay team. They won the Division III national title.
Watching him run, very impressive body control, fine strength. If he doesn't catch on here, I think we'll see him playing somewhere in the league. But the Raiders really enjoy having him in a black Raider uniform.
Second down, a long 6. We'll check a third and a long 6. The vertical game. Tadoki Williams almost stole it. Covered by Everson Walls and almost worked his way around Walls to take it away down at the 33 of the Cowboys.
That's one part of the Raider offense that has been absent under the quarterbacking of Mark Wilson. Those long passes for which the Raiders have been known for so long. And Plunkett, in his drives to the Super Bowl, certainly was able to throw this pass as well as anyone around. He underthrew this one. Look at the launch on that, how far it went. Plunkett, watching it all the way, knows there's a chance. Couldn't quite get it.
Ray Guy with a lot of room in which to kick, and it's Gordon Banks at the Dallas 39 looking for a block. There is none, and it'll be right at the 39. Trey Junkin, 87, in on the tackle, and with it comes a timeout. 9 minutes 36 seconds left in the half. Here's a thoroughbred Doki Williams adjusting to the pass by Plunkett. It was a little underthrown, and he almost pilfered it away from Everson Walls. But that vertical game, Tom Flores talked about it yesterday. He said, I was happy with the defense, delighted with my running game last year. We have to stretch the defense long. That was the Raider tradition.
Now, the quarterbacks, of course, don't call the plays anymore for the Raiders, but the success of those long passes dictates more long passes.
Danny White, he's going to go long, and it's out of bounds.
Very close to offensive interference by Carl Poe.
He pushed Hayes away, but the ball was not catchable even by the defender. Reminder, we'll be selecting the Budweiser Most Valuable Player for tonight's game. We'll announce that later in the fourth quarter. If Howie Long plays long enough, it's no contest. Watch how many men he occupies. He says, I'm going to paint myself like a duck this year. I'm just a decoy. 3 guys take me, and all the other guys have the fun.
Look at the Raiders. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 players up on the line of scrimmage.
And down goes Dorsett, trying to make a quick cut.
Now the Tony Dorsett.
Raiders have always played aggressive defense, attacking defense, but look how they've stacked them up in the middle and on the line. Looks a little bit like what Chicago did in their black uniforms last year. I don't think there's any question that teams are going to pick up bits and pieces of Buddy Ryan's 46 defense because it was so successful. Coaches are great imitators, and if you do something successfully, it's not long until you see it being imitated.
Gordon Banks to the right. The rookie Mike Sherrard to the far left. Offside. And the inside handoff to Newsome. Cut down at the 44, but The Raiders were offside, and Dallas will get 5 yards and another chance. Greg Townsend, number 93, lined up on the near side, leaned across that neutral zone.
In his eagerness to get to the quarterback, he jumped across, and that's not unusual for the linemen. They want a piece of that quarterback.
We talked about USFL players migrating now to the National Football League.
Number 93, offside, third down, will be repeated.
Now, Kansas City is a team that has not received a lot of national publicity, but they picked up 2 really quality linemen. Irv Eatman, an offensive lineman from the USFL, and then they signed Kit Lathrop, who was voted twice the lineman of the year in the USFL on defense. He'll take Mike Bell's spot for the Chiefs.
There's no question that there are a lot of fine football players out there right now on the market, and well, the Dallas Cowboys have signed a whole list we'll show you later of players out of the USFL. The Raiders have one that we may see here tonight as well.
Third down, a long 3, and trouble with a snap, and the Cowboys are stopped again with Dorsett. And that play seemed to have trouble written on it right from the start as White came up to take the snap.
One of the players the Cowboys have signed is right there on the T-shirt, Nathan Newton.
What's his nickname?
They call him the Kitchen. He's not a refrigerator or a stove. He's the Kitchen. 336 pounds he weighed in as, and he's wearing 74. Tony Dorsett saw him wearing that uniform. He said they missed a number. It should be 747.
Could hang billboards on his back. Napoleon McCallum waiting for Saxon's punt. Will anyone ever score? 21-yard line, and oh, is he rudely dropped after a 2-yard return. Some of the players signed by these 2 teams. Well, the Cowboys have gone for Johnson, Kemp. There's Newton, who has a couple of brothers too. He's got a living room Newton, and he's got an icebox Newton. He's got the whole condo. Jerry Parrish, Jeff Speck, and of course Herschel Walker. You'll meet him at halftime. Walker has joined us in our booth, and curious as to how he reacted to some of the statements made by the Cowboys about why should he get so much and why can't we get as much ourselves. Will he be able to play in the same backfield with Tony Dorsett? Plunkett to Doki Williams to the 31-yard line. Everson Walls with a tackle shy of the first down. 8 yards on the play. Chris Ream from the USFL, and they like him. He might play tonight. The Dallas Cowboy players that you saw are not in uniform. There's a 2-week waiver. They won't count against the roster. The NFL teams have to be down to 60 on Tuesday, so they didn't want to suit him up and have one of the weeks taken away. But Ream is in uniform for the Raiders. They think they might play him in the second half. Offensive lineman. That's Mueller trying to find the first down, but the hole wasn't there. Too tall Jones at 6'9" and 287, 35 years of age.
He's still making it look good as he goes inside, gets away from Henry Lawrence right there, splits the seam, and gets a nice piece of Vance Mueller on that play. There's some concern among the Cowboys and their fans about that defensive line. Too Tall Jones and John Dutton, both 35 years old. And of course, Randy White's 33. And one thing you don't want to do is have a whole group like that get old at the same time.
3rd and short, and Plunkett trying to cross up the defense and go deep for Trey Junkin. Incomplete. Junkin, the tight end. They just missed connections down at the 25-yard line.
I'll tell you, that's a fine pass by Plunkett. You can almost feel like you're in the defensive secondary here. Good little fake to freeze the secondary, and Plunkett throws a perfect spiral. And I'll tell you, Everson Walls, if he doesn't make that quick close, that's a completion to Junkin. To Junkin, yes.
That was a junket to Junkin.
You've got to be pleased. I think the Raiders have to be pleased with what they've seen Plunkett do so far in this ballgame.
Ray Guy to punt again. Robert Lovett for the Cowboys, number 29, coming up, and fumbles the ball and recovers himself at the 27. He was lucky. He fumbled it forward, and one of the oncoming Raiders knocked it right back into his grasp. A 40-yard punt for Ray Guy.
One of those situations where Levette did not know whether he should try and call a fair catch. He didn't call it, and he got smashed just as he reached for that football. That's James, who was it?
Stephon Adams.
Stephon Adams, 43. Stephon Adams down there very quickly to cover on that play. I don't think Stephon believed he was going to try and catch that.
And there may have been a penalty on the play because Guy and the Raiders are coming back on the field. Career with Houston. Will he join the Buffalo Bills? With
An ineligible member of the kicking team, number 39, was illegally downfield. 4th down will be repeated with a 5-yard penalty.
Steve Strahan, who was a top running back for Doug Flutie at Boston College in his 2nd year with the Raiders. And they'll punt it again.
I'll tell you, the Buffalo Bills are going to do everything they can to get Jim Kelly. That would certainly help to lift them. They've been in the doghouse long enough, haven't they? Ralph Wilson is supposed to be meeting with Kelly over this weekend to try and get something done.
Kelly's the kind of quarterback that could lift a team in a hurry. Guy spirals it once again to Levette. Boy, he's taken a couple of licks back to back. It was Trey Junkin this time down there first for the Raiders. A 36-yard punt. And a reminder, NBC Sports World, a lot of fun tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock in Los Angeles. NBC Sports World. Sports fantasies come true. First down. White in a crowd. Throwing to Junior Miller. Incomplete. Rod Martin on the coverage. Junior Miller did not play all of last year. He was a Pro Bowler his first 2 years in the league with Atlanta. Admitted to an alcohol problem. He has corrected that. The Cowboys giving him a chance, and Landry and the coaching staff has been very impressed.
If he can once again kindle a kind of emotion and enthusiasm and show the talent he showed early in his career at Atlanta, the Cowboys have themselves a great tight end.
He's only 28. 2nd down 10. Levette. Young man from Georgia Tech. Has a first down and more. Still on his feet at the 40. And finally out of bounds inside the 35. The run of the night by Robert Levette. And he is fighting for a job with the addition of Darryl Clark, a top pick out of Arizona State, and now Herschel Walker.
You better believe that he can see his name on a cut list, and he said, hey, you're going to have to drag me out of here. Excellent run. Look how he maintains his balance, stays in bounds right there, inches from the line. Van McElroy fighting with him, but Levette simply would not give up. Kept his balance, heads downfield. They finally nail him, but that is some excellent football run.
Is that right, Herschel? He outrushed you in a game, Georgia Tech against Georgia?
He did. Oh, wow. Cowboys threaten with less than 6 minutes remaining in the half. Timmy Newsome brought down by veteran Brad Van Pelt, linebacker, 13 years out of Michigan State. Landry trying to find the end zone. 2 field goals in this preseason in his 2 games. Shutout last week at San Diego. Shutout in the playoffs against the Rams. Shutout the last 3 quarters of the playoff game before against the 49ers. That's incredible. 20 straight winning seasons, and they're working on that long string. This would be the 17th quarter without a touchdown. Newsome. Rod Martin. Martin read it all away. The leading tackler of the Raiders last year. Boy, how he makes the big plays.
Big play is right. Aggressive play. Coming quickly to the outside. If he misses that tackle, Newsome has a good game. But Rod Martin certainly didn't miss it. Stripped Newsome to the ground for about a 7-yard loss. 3rd and 11. Cowboys again in danger of seeing a drive stifled.
4.5 minutes left in this scoreless first half. Don't wander too far away. That halftime feature in the instant replay will really give you something to think about. And it would be nice to visit with Herschel Walker as well.
Look out.
Levette on the screen, breaking another tackle, and finally dumped out of bounds at the 24, 2 yards shy of a first down. Stacey Turan made the tackle.
Again, the kind of play you like to run against an aggressive, hard rushing team. They'll let the defensive lineman through. Piquel almost on top of White when he threw that ball out of there. Look at that. Townsend diving to get a piece of him. And I think slowing him up as he did allowed Turan to get over there and bump him out of bounds. Excellent defensive pursuit. The Cowboys will try a field goal.
It'll be 42 or 43 yards, apparently right at 43 for the veteran Rafael Septien. Zendejas, with whom he is fighting for the Cowboy job, missed from 44 earlier. Steve Pallure to hold. Septien has the Cowboys on the board. 42 yards.
Tom Landry hasn't seen a touchdown yet in 1986, but I'll tell you, he's happy to get some points on the board tonight.
Well, a reminder that with the regular season just 3 weeks away, we have one other NFL preseason game coming your way. That's in a couple of weeks when John Elway will go against the great Ram back Eric Dickerson. The Broncos and the Rams, prime time Friday night, the 29th of this month at 8 o'clock Eastern time here on NBC Sports. And that same weekend, NBC Sports will be covering the Budweiser Million, the Arlington Million in Chicago, one of the big thoroughbred horse racing days of the year. On our way to the Breeders' Cup back out here at Santa Anita in November.
In these preseason games, a lot of individual battles, and you've mentioned Zendejas and Septien. Septien did not have the kind of year last year that he'd had coming into last year. Had injury problems, was a little bit inconsistent. Ben Agajanian, who coaches these Cowboy kickers, feeling that a challenge would be good for Septien, and certainly if Zendejas could come in and show the kind of talent that they hoped he had, there's a legitimate shot at his having the job. But Septien didn't hurt his chances here with that kick.
Stephon Adams 44, Vance Mueller 42 are deep for the Raiders. It comes to Mueller's side at the 11. And he's out of bounds at the 24, and you could hear the pads pop, and Bill Bates there again along with Dennis Thurman. This telecast presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Raiders and the National Football League is prohibited. 25-yard line, they spot it as Jim Plunkett will try to get the Raiders on the board. They too shut out last week. Second worst loss ever in Raider history. 32-0 at San Francisco. Flory said the only bright spot was we really got to practice our kickoffs.
Quite a few times. Kickoff returns, actually.
Trey Junkin in the flat. And he was covered by rookie Scott Strasburger from Nebraska.
Excellent job of protection. Watch number 70, Henry Lawrence, holding out Too Tall Jones.
Holding out is right.
The double fistful of jersey there, but he did it in such a way that he wasn't going to be caught. Got inside. The Raiders masters at doing that, and that's pretty well accepted blocking technique around the league today. You get inside, you get those hands up tight, you take a hold of what you can get a hold of. The time you get in trouble is when you reach way out with one hand and tackle those defensive linemen.
3:59 left first half. Cowboys 3, Raiders nothing. Plunkett under pressure, going long, has a man open. Williams, and it's broken up with a flag down at the 50-yard line. That was Manny Hendricks, a rookie from Utah, did not play college football, a basketball star with the Utes, who is trying to make this Cowboy team, and his athletic skill has been obvious. It's a matter of him learning in a crash course how to play a very difficult football position.
Illegal contact, number 45 on the defensive team. 5-yard penalty, first down.
You've got to expect youngsters, in particular one like Manny Hendricks, who's not played a lot of football, to make some mistakes. The bump happened earlier than we were able to pick up the play there, but
before the ball was in the air and that just beyond the 5-yard zone.
Only allowed to bump within that 5-yard zone. Watch Plunkett under pressure here. Very cool. Still hoping for a catch at the other end. That ball again underthrown. That's twice he's underthrown Dokie Williams.
Not afraid to go long though. This is Vance Mueller. And out to about the 33-yard line. Randy White. Look at Holloway, number 35, made the tackle, and when they came out to warm up, it said 35. I don't remember that in London. It's because Holloway wore 34 in the game in London, and suddenly 34 wasn't available. He changed by a digit. Herschel Walker, of course, will wear that number with the Cowboys.
Well, they certainly like Johnny Holloway. They like his speed, and such a precious commodity for defensive backs in this era of pass-oriented football.
3 minutes 15 seconds left in the half. Under a blitz. What a throw by Plunkett. It's complete to the 42-yard line. Dokie Williams has a first down for the Raiders. Hendricks with a tackle, but how did Plunkett get that one away?
Victor Scott, the safety, had faked the blitz and started to walk away, and in doing so it got the defensive or the offensive line to ignore him, and there he came at the last second and just stacked up on top of Plunkett. But Plunkett had that ball out and on target. That's an excellent pass and a fine reception on the outside by Dokie Williams.
His first catch of the night at the 43-yard line. The clock is running. 2:33, 2:32, 2:31 left in the half. Raiders trail 3-0. Going long for Williams. Incomplete at the 28-yard line. Broken up by Hendricks. Oh no, they're going to call that complete. Now here's a case where, at least from the naked eye view, should not have been a reception. We'll see on the instant replay. The NFL officials are watching what you are. Is it a legal catch? Never had possession. So here's a case where, if I were watching the replay, the word would go down to the field and say no catch, but that apparently is not the case.
Well, maybe that's a question we could ask about the system too, Dick.
First down play, Mueller. He's got speed but can't turn the corner. Ripped down by number 52, Chris Dulaban. Has speed of his own, a linebacker rookie from the University of Texas. Not big, but he can run like a back.
Tom Landry over there saying, did he catch that ball?
2-minute warning given. 3-0. The Cowboys trying to make contact with the NFL box where they're using the instant replay. We've gotten mixed reports. One is that there was a mechanical failure. That could have meant in their own instant replay device.
Oh, that they couldn't contact the field. That's what was said, that they were reviewing it and wanted to contact the field but couldn't get the referee's attention through a device that he is wearing.
So that is one of the problems in the system.
Of course it is. But we have our own problems with all of the equipment, and apparently they have some problems too.
Meanwhile, it is second down and 12 for the Raiders, trailing 3-0. 2 minutes left in this first half at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Vance Mueller trying to find a hole, finds only white shirts. Randy White. That's not the guy that you want to search out. And White, an all-pro 8 straight years, wrapped his 19-inch biceps around Vance Mueller and said, "Welcome to the NFL."
I always enjoy going out to the Cowboy camp and visiting with Randy White. He always is the same and very quiet, very low-key off the field. He changes considerably when he puts on his uniform and his game pads.
3rd and 13. Mueller in motion. Plunkett. Beautiful throw to Dokie Williams and a first down at the 15-yard line.
Dokie Williams just flying upfield and breaking between Downs and Everson Walls, and Plunkett's pass is perfectly thrown.
The Raiders will spend one of their 3 timeouts with 1:11 remaining in this first half, trying to go ahead. Welcome back to the Coliseum in Los Angeles, where 38-year-old Jim Plunkett, on this drive especially, has been most impressive.
A although he has underthrown some of the long passes he's thrown tonight, which may be because of arm strength, but simply may be that he's just rusty. He just zipped that pass. You don't throw it any better than that. He may be creating a few problems from Tom Flores and Al Davis. We'll have to ask Al about that in the second half.
The Cowboys' slender 3-0 lead is in jeopardy with 1:11 left in the first half. From the 14, Plunkett looking for 6. Touchdown, Steve Strahan.
Play-action pass put Strahan on Steve Strasburger, the linebacker. Number 51 is going to try and cover the running back. Plunkett, who gets good protection here, has time to loft it over the linebacker's head. Strahan gets down inside the end zone.
Chris Barr hits the extra point, and it's 7-3 Raiders. Jim Plunkett, a man who has been definitely playing behind Mark Wilson in the Raider camp, finally gets to what he didn't practice with the starting unit much.
Usually practice with the second unit even during this week in which he was expected to start. By the way, Mark Wilson is also going to have a chance to play tonight. Initially, that was not in the plan for Tom Flores, but they were so pleased with what Wilson was able to do last week, and at least in his responsibilities as a quarterback, that they want him to come in and play in the third quarter. Let's go back and look at that touchdown.
Plunkett, who guided the Raiders 75 yards in 8 plays and 1 catch to Williams that perhaps should not have been allowed, was perfectly thrown to his running back Strahan out of the backfield. They worked on Strasburger, a backup linebacker, to get the touchdown. Their first in nearly 6 full quarters of the preseason. Of course, the Raiders have never been all that serious about a winning record the preseason. The last 3 years they were 1-3, but they don't like to be shut out or embarrassed as they were last week in San Francisco. Well, the instant replay, and after you watch that halftime feature, you certainly has stardom written all over him, as he was the great player in the USFL and now joins the Cowboys. Barr rooting it high. Robert Levette make that duck it. Can he duck it? And Barr himself makes the tackle. Chris Barr just passed his bar examination. He's now a lawyer, and you wonder whether or not he's been studying too hard. Here's the play on that drive that was certainly controversial and ruled a catch, even though the instant replay system is in effect. They couldn't communicate with the officials to overturn that call.
The ruling, of course, the rule is the receiver has to put 2 feet on the ground, and once that has happened, it's ruled a legitimate catch.
While in definite possession.
While in possession, and also while in bounds.
Al Davis will be our guest in the second half. I wonder if he voted for the instant replay. We'll ask him.
Look out.
With blockers, 30, 35, breaking tackles as he has 2 other occasions, and finally down at the 44-yard line. 20 more yards for Levette. Mitch Willis chasing the play made the tackle. 44 seconds remaining in the half.
Kind of a sad day for a number of players on Tuesday. These 2 teams will have to be down to 60 players. 30 of the players you see here tonight, or approximately 30, will be gone. Robert Levette wants to make certain that if his name is on that list, and I doubt very much if he'll be on that list, that he has a chance to come back and have a shot somewhere else.
You saw Glenn Titans make a fine. Astros playing great baseball. Long, apparently.
Through for the evening, I think.
There's a pretty good clue with that chapeau. 7-3, the Raiders, 44 seconds left in the half. Dallas with 2 timeouts remaining. White, fine catch, and out of bounds goes Junior Miller on the near sidelines at the 49, a 6-yard play. He was a #1 pick of the Atlanta Falcons. In fact, the 7th player selected in the '80 draft was Junior Miller out of Nebraska.
You see Al Levan standing next to Tom Landry. He'll be signaling plays in. Paul Hackett, the new coordinator of the passing game for the Cowboys, up in the booth, and he and Landry discussing which plays are going to be called, and then they're signaled in to Danny White on the field.
It appeared they wanted White to go deep. Instead, he's going to go down. 99 Sean Jones finally got the sack, but he had plenty of help as they
Bill Pickel in there, 98 Mitch Willis, all kinds of Raider jerseys in there as the protection broke down. Danny White looking deep out of the shotgun, or the spread as the Cowboys call it, and you see those Cowboys going by. That's Mitch Willis that got the first piece of him, and of course Sean Jones, who picks up what we call a baggie. That's not a full sack, that's a baggie. Somebody else got there ahead of you.
White must have felt like he was on a carousel the way they were spinning him around. 3rd and 14. The Cowboys, there's a hint of what they think, did not call timeout, although they had one remaining. And now with just 7 seconds left, they make the completion down to the 38-yard line and now call time with 1 second remaining. So curiously, with 2 timeouts left, they didn't call one after the sack, and now after the long gainer, they're left with only 1 play and 1 second.
Your option now, as you see Danny White throwing under pressure again from Sean Jones, who's working on number 70, Howard Richards. That's an excellent pass play, but of course in a situation like this, you're fighting the clock. You're going to give the man room short. That's Mike Sherrard. We mentioned his name earlier. Able to get down and get open for that catch. But now you have 2 choices. Either you try the extremely long field goal, or you go for the touchdown or hope for a penalty against the defensive team here.
Well, the ball spotted just outside the 38 would make it a 55-yard field goal attempt, so they will not try the long field goal, although that might be an interesting chance for Zendejas, the rookie who had the reputation of hitting those 50-yard play, hit 14 of them at Arizona State.
You know, we've seen Sean Jones quite a bit tonight, flashing in from the outside. He's lost a lot of weight, hasn't he, Dick?
He told me yesterday that he dropped last off-season 18 pounds, but he said, I'm 30 pounds stronger. So that's the weights, losing the body weight, but picking up strength by use of weights in the off year.
I think, too, that a number of people who watch the Bears play their defense and watch Dent, Richard Dent, coming flashing in from the outside, have said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could have? Sean Jones looks to be perhaps that kind of player.
A triple right for the Cowboys. Last play of the half. Sherrard is down there, but so is Lester Hayes, who comes down with the ball at the end of the first half. As the Raiders, on a drive in the final 2 minutes, engineered by the veteran Jim Plunkett, leave the field with a 7-3 lead.
Lester with his 2nd interception of the evening.
And we'll be back with our feature in the instant replay on Herschel Walker after these messages from your local station.
Mistake on their part, or occasionally by an outstanding play by the Raider defense.
Tom Flores, who was selected by Al Davis to be the coach of this team 8 years ago. Flores now in his 21st year as a Raider, either as a player or as a coach. He was one of the original Raiders in 1960 through 66. He played in the early years for Eddie Erdelatz, the former Navy coach, as they started the old AFL.
You know, one of the things that inevitably happens when you have as visible a controlling power as Al Davis, it's often the contribution of a man like Tom Flores to this team is not always rewarded. And I think we at times are guilty of saying, well, obviously that was a decision that was made by Al Davis. I'm going to ask him about that, because I know that he's terribly proud of what Tom Flores has been able to do here. And his name is not always on the lists of the great coaches in the NFL. And yet if you look at his record, you've got to put him on that list.
It's like a good husband and wife. You know, their personalities might be a considerable contrast, and I think the good marriage here with the Raiders is the difference in personalities, just as it may be in the Dallas organization. And who's to fault the success of Tom Landry and Tex Schramm, and an organization regarded as one of the best in all of sport.
In temperament, Tom Flores and Tom Landry very similar, able to stay calm in moments of crisis, and both, I'm sure, had the urge last week to scream at their teams in those games that were certainly embarrassing for them. But these two men, I think, are very similar in the thought that their job is to get their teams ready for that opener. And they're not going to lose their composure and lose their control at this point. Now, if their teams play that way in the opener, then I think you might see a different coach that day and the next day as well.
As we go to the second half, and undoubtedly we'll see more of the rosters, both teams, and as that play develops, Al Davis will join us here in our NBC booth, and there's so many questions I know that you're hoping we will ask of Mr. Davis, and we're pleased that he's going to come aboard. We'll ask him about his presentation at the USFL trial. We'll ask him whether he voted for the instant replay. Ask him about what he thinks about Herschel Walker.
Now, don't ask him all these questions ahead of time. We want to surprise him. We got a few to spring on him, Dick.
Okay. 7-3 the score. The Raiders lead it. We open the second half. Raphael Septien kicking toward Napoleon McCallum and Zeph Lee, a rookie from USC, but it's McCallum all the way from the 6 to the 20, and he's drilled at the 21-yard line. I thought it was Bill Bates. When you see a 40, you immediately think of Bates, but it was number 46, Todd Fowler, the backup fullback to Timmy Newsome at the 21-yard line. So it'll be Mark Wilson, number 6, jogging on the field as the quarterback here in the third quarter. And you hear the boos. He is not the most popular quarterback in the black and silver.
He's going to have to earn his stripes with this crowd. They still remember that in a couple of critical situations, they felt that he let this team down.
You saw his percentage was under 50, and he had 5 more interceptions than touchdowns last year. Vance Mueller, the rookie running back, for 2 or 3. But in his defense, he worked behind a patchwork offensive line all season long.
It's been said, too, of Wilson in this training camp. He appears to be more confident, more under control, and very important, I think, for him to interact more effectively with his teammates. I think by taking too much of the load on himself last year, he may have gotten himself in a little trouble.
Second down, 7 from the 24. Wilson intercepted. It's number 55, Steve Diassi. He's at the 20. He's got a blocker. Cutting back and chased from behind and tripped at the 12-yard line. He can't outrun those wide receivers, Rod Barksdale and Tim Moffitt. And on his first throw, Wilson has a negative result, and he hears the crowd.
Well, that certainly won't help his confidence. But let me show you something else about Mark Wilson. After this ball is intercepted by Diassi, watch who is involved in stopping Diassi. Diassi gets away from a tackler here, heads right, and look who's there to kind of fence him off. Number 5, Mark Wilson. Or number 6, Mark Wilson. Wilson up to get a piece of that tackle. Actually gets nailed by Barksdale, one of his wide receivers, as he comes over to try and put the clamps on him.
At the Cowboys set up shop at the 12-yard line of the Raiders. 7-3 Los Angeles, and it's Lovett who had an outstanding first half running the ball. Jamie Kimmel, playing in that middle of the linebacking core, makes the hit, and the Raiders thought they had the ball out of it.
Steve Pallure, the quarterback, so the Cowboys making some changes. You can feel the shock of that hit by Kimmel and Stacy Toran as they just pick Lovett up and slam him back to the ground. But he was able to pick up about 3.5 yards on the play.
Second down and 6. We'll see a lot of reserves. In fact, the Raiders primarily going with their second defensive unit. And Steve Pallure, having trouble communicating in the Dallas huddle, will call time. We played just over a minute and a half of this third quarter. Dallas threatening to take the lead. Quarterback Mark Wilson playing in the third quarter. His first throw intercepted by Steve Diassi, and the Dallas Cowboys on 2nd and 6 at the Raider 8-yard line. A chance to take the lead. It's Los Angeles in front 7-3. Saw Danny White without the helmet motioning for Steve Pallure to hurry back as they've marked the ball, and the clock is already at the 22nd mark. Pallure, the third-year quarterback from the University of Washington, getting his work now in the third period. We may see Reggie Collier in the fourth. Down to 5 seconds. 3, and they get the play off. It's Lovett. Good hold at the 5, and Lovett is pulled out of bounds at the 2. Brad Cochran, an All-American at the University of Michigan, number 38, the third-round draft pick of the Raiders, made the tackle.
Raiders with a whole second line defense in there in a pressure situation. They like Copper. They think he has some great promise for that defensive secondary, and he made a very sure tackle to keep Levette out of the end zone.
And they may have to measure to see whether or not that will be a first down. Ball spotted just inside the Raider 2.
You feel a little pressure on the Cowboy side of the line. They don't believe in a lot of jinxes, but they would like to have a touchdown here.
It's been a long drought for Dallas. And they'll have to bring the chain gang from across the field to see whether this is 3rd and inches or 1st and goal. First and goal. And Dallas, Tom Landry employs 3 tight ends, Cornwell, Miller, and the rookie Chandler. And 4 shots from inside the 2 to take the lead. Technically, the ball, while closer to the 2-yard line, statistically is on the 1.
I'd say there's a big difference if you're lined up on that line.
You bet there is. Newsome and Levette behind Pallur. Newsome right to the goal line as he plows up the middle. As they unpile, 58 Jack Squirick, 99 Sean Jones is in there to make the tackle.
63 Lyndon King. The Raiders picked him up from San Diego, where he had played as a regular for so many years. You see him in the middle of that huddle. He's getting a chance on the right side tonight.
He's big, 6'4", 245 with speed.
They like him here too.
2nd and goal from the 1. Levette, touchdown, Dallas. So Robert Levette, who has been the top running back in terms of production on the field tonight, earns the touchdown, and Dallas finally, you can almost hear a collective sigh in the Lone Star State. The Cowboys have finally scored a touchdown.
After 17 dry touchdownless quarters, Levette ends the drought. Not by much. He just forced himself through those black-shirted Raiders into that end zone.
Max Zendejas to try the point after. He's got it. It's Dallas 10, the Raiders 7, as the Cowboys go 12 yards in 4 plays after the interception. World Series station NBC leading you right up to that fall encounter. The Mets and Dodgers, well, it's just a few miles away up in the ravine at Dodger Stadium Wednesday evening. Meanwhile, here in the famed Coliseum, it's 10-7 Dallas. Septien to kick it off. McCallum and Lee, 2 rookies at the other end. It comes to Napoleon McCallum, 20, 30, and he's to the 32-yard line. Let's go back to the touchdown by Levette.
Pretty good offensive surge by that Cowboy offensive line, and that second Cowboy offensive line is even bigger than the first, averaging right around 290 pounds a man. You hear the welcome of this crowd as they blame Wilson for that touchdown.
They're leaving their first string line in there for Wilson. Mo Spar the center, Marsh and Marvin the guards, Davis and Lawrence the tackles. He gives to the rookie back Mueller, but there's nothing there. Don Schmierig made the tackle. Now on this next play, I'll call it from upstairs. We switch down. That's our producer on the left, George Finkel. John Gonzalez on the right, our director. And you will hear their shots. We're live from Los Angeles while this play goes on. You'll see it through the 4 replay monitors.
The monitors. Okay, 82, 83 black, 72 white. ISO 72 white, ISO 3, 83 black, ISO 6. Insert. Go ahead, Nick. Drop it.
Second down.
Drop the insert.
And 9. Wilson has a man. Moffitt at the 40, and he's out of bounds at the 31-yard line of Dallas.
QFW, QFY.
You'll see them now as we pick up 2 of those isolations. Run them back quickly. First, the quarterback throwing the football. Wilson has the receiver, and as characteristic of him, arches the ball high.
This is a different replay machine.
Now watch Tim Moffitt as he breaks away from Manny Hendricks, and the pass thrown right into the seam there. Victor Scott there to knock him out of bounds, but that's a fine first down.
Take 7 and watch again.
Tim Moffitt, 35 yards.
Record.
On his first catch of the night. Wilson looking for 6 in a hurry, and just misses. Trey Junkin, the backup tight end.
Get a little taste of the kind of equipment and the kind of teamwork required to bring you the replays, and also a way of showing you the complexity that we talked about earlier that may not always provide the NFL with the information that they would like.
I guarantee any of you, if you walked into that truck and watched, you'd wonder, how does it ever get on the air? I mean, it is mass confusion.
They were on their
brilliance
best
of those
behavior.
people.
They were on their best
Boy,
behavior.
were they ever nice down there. They had to go through charm school to get on the air tonight. This is Vance Mueller. Short yardage. Inside the 30, and that'll bring up a 3rd down and about 8.
Critical 3rd down. Wilson has certainly fared much better in this second opportunity of the second half as they've moved down. This down is particularly important to sustain the drive.
Back to the complexity and the problems in the instant replay as an officiating device. As you could see, split-second decisions. They don't know where they're going to get the best angle to see a possible officiating error, and there's no time to get all of those replays in. So it might be a play later, then it's too late to reverse a call. Wilson wide open is Junkin, the tight end. There's that Moffitt. It's Tim Moffitt, the wide receiver from Mississippi, for 6 more yards.
Very, very close to a first down. In fact, they're going to have to measure it.
And go roll tape wide, dissolve wide. Stand by dissolve. That's all. Let's just use one replay. That's it. 3 both huddles. Measurement. Stand by to come back to the measurement. Back it up, X. Right at the end. Let's take a look at it. Stand by to go to angle. Go to X.
They will measure, and it is not a first down.
Choice now for the Raiders.
Where do you want to go?
I think they'll probably go for it in this situation.
Come on back, Mike. Here's another angle of it. And go to X. Go X.
As you heard the producer Finkel say, here's another angle. That's what he would be saying to Merlin and myself. We'd hear that in our ears, so we would know that we're going to see the same play from a different angle in the course of our work.
And if that were a question of possession, that would indeed have been a better angle to view the catch from.
But they don't know any more than you do whether it is evidence until we see it. They try for the first down and don't make it. The Cowboys stop them and take over on downs.
Vance Mueller, no, that's Strahan. Strahan with the football. One of the cardinal rules of short yardage, get those shoulders square to the line and don't move laterally. The Cowboys shut it down.
Take that, David Letterman. We've got a cast of thousands, too. Well, at the 23, and it must have seemed to young Strahan that there were too many Cowboy defenders on the field as they stopped him cold.
I think he probably thought there were 23 of them, Dick.
Now Dallas leading 10-7. Takes over on downs at the 23. Newsome and Levette, and now Levette in motion out of the backfield. Steve Pallor tossing to Newsome. And the big fullback ridden down at the 25 at Jack Squirick and company after a 2-yard pickup. Reminder, later on we'll be selecting the Budweiser most valuable player in tonight's game.
Squirick there along with Stacy Turan. Turan out of Notre Dame really has impressed this Raider camp with his ability to hit. He put on a little weight, a little bulk this year, and he's not afraid to come up and stick that helmet right into your midsection.
He looks bigger than 6'2", 200, doesn't he? Second down, 8 at the Dallas 25. Pallor finding his tight end out at the 34-yard line, and that will be, I believe, a first down, a pickup of about 9 yards. Thornton Chandler, the rookie from Alabama. And now the instant replay.
Chance to watch Pelor under pressure from Mitch Willis there. Gets it over the outstretched arms of another on-rushing lineman. Good catch.
Chandler didn't get a chance to catch the ball much at Alabama. Those tight ends have to block in that system. Boy, the Cowboys love the way he handles the football.
Helps to have long arms, too, doesn't it?
First down for Dallas. They lead 10-7, 9 minutes left, third quarter. Newsome again for short yardage. Well, Al Davis has joined us in our NBC booth, and if you say Raiders and through the years, and it wouldn't matter quite what year it was, synonymous with that is Al Davis, and thank you for joining us. A long way from Brooklyn.
Quite honored, Richard, quite honored to be here with you and Merlin. I often wondered what it would be like.
Well, we might just put you in a little play-by-play, Coach.
No, I just kind of like to watch the philosophy, what Dallas is trying to do and what we're trying to do. And I know they're trying to work a great deal with Sherrod out here, number 88. And we've got young Sam Seal on him, so it'll be interesting to see speed versus speed. This is kind of their second group, and of course it's our second group. It's interesting to watch the development of the young players.
Too much time. Al, to a very serious matter, and I'd like to ask you about the USFL trial. And you were involved, and you took a position that wasn't necessarily popular with your fellow owners, and it seemed that you were siding with the USFL. What is your comment?
Not particularly true. When the USFL filed their lawsuit, they left us out of it because they thought that we were victimized by the same illegal restraints as they were. And they wanted to depose me, and the league wrote me a letter that if I didn't defend the lawsuit in behalf of the league, they were going to bill me anyhow. If they lost, I would be one of the 28. And I thought I had to go back to New York and say that we were not part of that illegal conspiracy. If the National Football League violated the antitrust laws again, we were not a part of it, and thought it was unconscionable that they would want to charge us when we were not named in the lawsuit. So that's why I went back, and that's why I protected the rights of the Raiders, and the Raiders were not named. And if they uphold the illegal conspiracy act on the part of the National Football League, and there's attorney's fees and things like that that the league has to pay, we're not a part of it, and we'll contest it if they try and take the money from us. And I think anybody would do that.
Now that we have seen what may or may not be a conclusion of that lawsuit, what impact do you think the cessation of the USFL season is going to have on the NFL?
Well, I think the greatness of the NFL is in its future. I think the ratings are high. Obviously, the athletes, the great ones that have come over from the USFL, will give our league a lift. I just think the game is growing again. We've had a little bit of a down cycle from time to time, but this is a great game. London, all over the world, the National Football League, and I think that it's indicative today, the crowd that's here, and I just think the greatness of the league is in its future.
We'll go back.
We've got to stop
to the 30 seconds.
being in the courtroom. We've got to get out of the courtroom. We've got to get out of Congress. We've got to have the illegal acts and get rid of them and just play football. That's my firm belief.
Let's talk about playing football. You've got a quarterbacking situation here that many people have said you can't win with Mark Wilson. I know you feel differently about that.
Well, I feel that in the situation we're in right now, we're not going to let the quarterback dominate whether we win or lose. The philosophy of an organization is always important, and you always have to have great players. And at that position right now, we not have the dominating player, and so we're going to have to go to the players who are great and try and win with them.
In other words, use the tools you have.
Mitch Willis was the man who pressured Pelor. The pass goes incomplete, and on fourth down, the Cowboys will have to punt it away. See if Napoleon McCallum is involved on this return. I don't believe he is. When do you think you'll get the word as to whether or not he'll be able to play, or do you think it's realistic that McCallum will play with the Raiders this year?
Well, I think we'll know Monday or Tuesday of this next week relative to Napoleon McCallum, but I think it's realistic that they would allow him to play, but they have to allow him to play. He can't be a part-time player. It would be like this is Fulton Walker.
Right.
And he returns just shy of the 40-yard line. We'll be back with a third quarter action. 6 minutes, 44 seconds remain. Dallas by 3. Al Davis and all will return from Los Angeles. From the perspective of our NBC truck, it's more confusing in there than a huddle with 11 quarterbacks. Al Davis of the Raiders is with us in our booth. The instant replay. We saw a mechanical failure in the first half on a controversial call. Did you vote for it?
No, I would have passed on it. Whatever they want to do, I'm not sure that we're ready for it yet, because We've seen too many instances where it doesn't particularly work, but those are the things in life that we'll go with either way, and it might be good for professional football, and it might cause more controversy than we have at the present time.
Another recent vote, and I'd like to have your opinion on it, the vote not to expand to a 49-man roster. How did you feel about that?
Did you vote for or against that?
I passed on it. It was concrete going in that they would not vote for it. I believe greatly that we have to develop young players. I don't think that we really get an opportunity as a football team.
To Rod Barksdale for a touchdown. 60 yards. Wilson to Barksdale, who did not play college football. He's from Arizona, where he was an All-American track sprinter. And did he get deep, and Wilson found him.
Interesting, Al. This crowd seems rather forgiving after that play.
Well, all crowds are, Merlin. As you well know, all you have to do in our culture, professional football, is win. And if you win, everybody's happy, including the owner, the coaches, the players, and the fans.
In particular, the quarterback on this play.
Yeah.
Mark has to feel very good about that pass.
He needs it. He's drilled 2 balls, and he's a very good deep thrower. He has a little trouble in the middle, as you saw early on when he threw that interception. But this is the part of life. It's an up-and-down game, and the idea is to see who wins at the end.
Isn't that his first catch as a Raider? Not too bad.
He's quite a young prospect, but he's young. That's the point I was trying to make. I thought we needed a good spring league. I still think the National Football League itself needs a 10-team spring league where we can develop young players, because they don't really get an opportunity or enough of an opportunity in training camp and the few preseason games that we play. I think we need a 10-team spring league.
How's that going to work? Are you saying that the NFL should have kind of a minor league that works?
Yes, I would call it AAA rather than use the word minor, so we get everybody there. But I think that the National Football League should go to 18 regular season games, 2 preseason games, but have a 10-team spring league where 3 National Football League teams are each assigned to one of those spring league teams, and we let young people play about 10 games in the spring. We watch these young quarterbacks grow, just like what the USFL did. I mean, they developed some fine young players and exposed a lot of young players who never had the opportunity, and I think that that's important to us if we're going to have the growth of our game, if we're going to be able to expand and give the new teams that come into our league good players, or at least something of creditable quality.
That's an interesting concept. Now, let me figure out your mathematics. You said 10 teams, 3 NFL teams supplying, but there are only 28 teams.
Well, I want to expand. Yeah, I think we should expand to 2. I think that the country wants it, and I think we should make a good gesture to everyone. We've been threatening Congress, threatening cities, threatening everyone. I think we ought to stop all of that and maybe give 2 teams into the national.
Would you vote for Oakland getting one of those 2 expansion teams?
I think Oakland was a great franchise, a great football community, and I think they deserve every consideration.
Robert Levette springing free again. What a night he's had at the 40. He's all the way to the 49 of the Raiders, and Levette has had a night to remember, though, in the preseason, as he is battling with all the news of Walker and Dorsett and Darryl Clack. This young man wants to play somewhere.
He was a fine all-around back in college. That's what he does. He has no outstanding qualities, but he makes things happen. He was a fine all-around back for Georgia Tech, Robert Levette.
One of the things that a lot of our listeners and viewers might not know about you, they've always known you as the managing general partner of the Raiders. Your background was as a football coach initially, and you're a football man. I think that gives you a great advantage in this game.
Well, you have to say that, Merlin, because the idea is to win.
Valor unloads. Oh, almost connecting with Mike Sherrard.
Stephon Adams.
Stephon Adams breaks it up. He is a first-year man. Did not play last year. A former high school all-stater in basketball in North Carolina. Went to East Carolina.
I know you're looking at expanding the number of healthy bodies back in that defensive secondary. He's one you're looking close at.
Yeah, we like him a great deal. He has tremendous speed. He only played 5 games on defense his senior year in college. We took him as a corner. He has tremendous speed. And last week against the 49ers, he played a little safety and showed great range and great tackling ability. He is not a tall man. We're very fussy there. We don't believe in dog pond approach. We believe in certain size requirements, but we're going to look at him there. Maybe Willie Wood down the road with that great speed. So Pelluer has a lot of time to hit a cross.
Oh, and he hits his man, and it is Gordon Banks from Stanford, and the little wide receiver is deep in Raider territory to the 17-yard line before rookie Brad Cochran can bounce him out of bounds. Banks in the USFL caught a pass in all 54 games, so he had, you can't break that record, and now trying to hook on with the Cowboys.
Well, Gordon was pretty good for the Oakland Invaders and was one of their 3 receivers with Anthony Carter. Very good young player.
Hey, this is an interesting third quarter. Suddenly things are opening up after nearly a scoreless first half. Both teams scoring in the final couple minutes. It's now 14-10 the Raiders, and a first down for Pelluer and the Cowboys at the Los Angeles 17.
Levette fumbling the ball, and he fumbled right into the arms of Jack Squirek.
Jackie.
Squirek will long be a fond memory for anyone who has loved the Raiders for that interception at the end of the first half against the Redskins in Super Bowl 18. They really turned the game inside out. No, they say that a Cowboy came up with it. Let's watch it. Never had possession.
The ball either was not properly handed off or no concentration on the part of Levette there. Might have been looking up instead of taking the ball properly.
Jack should have put his head in there and taken that ball.
Some of the best fights I remember were under pileups like that, Al, as people fought for that football.
Levette did a good job of covering his mistake, and it is 2nd and 10 at the 17. 5 minutes remaining in the third quarter. Cowboys trying to regain the lead. That's Cornwell in motion. Pelluer over the middle, complete to Cornwell, the tight end, toppled at the 8 by Stacy Turan. But it's an 8-yard gain for Dallas.
An excellent job by Steve Pelluer, a young quarterback. The blitz was on, the pressure was on him. He had the presence of mind to drop back, get a little extra time, find the open receiver, and then, most difficultly, get the ball to him.
He did a good job.
Ball inside the 10 at the 8, where it's 3rd down and 2.
Al, and in some way this is a company question, because it hurts NBC or CBS, anyone who comes into Los Angeles to televise one of your home games. You don't sell out 92,000 fans. It's tough to sell out early, and then we lose this huge Los Angeles market. This game is not being seen in Los Angeles, and some of the fans would like to see it, of course. After this play, I'd like to ask you whether there's any hope that the size of the Coliseum will be reduced. It'll be close to a first down, as a good defensive charge led by Squirek of the Raiders.
They're going to have to measure it.
What do you think?
I honestly believe that within a short period of time there'll be an announcement that we are going to take this stadium down to a size of about 80,000. We're going to move the stands in closer to the sidelines. We're going to do a lot of things to the stadium that have to be done. And I would say this, that if we reached a point where we're doing 70,000 regular, which we've been doing averaging, that I wouldn't be adverse to doing something for the fans, because I think that as we grow, this is the first year now that this eminent domain thing between the National Football League and the city of Oakland is over. We know we're here. That conspiracy is over, trying to stop us from coming. We can go out and fight to get the crowds in here, and if we don't do it, that's our poor job. And I wouldn't be adverse to having a certain number, perhaps 72,000 as the maximum. If we do 72, why opening the game up? I want the fans of Los Angeles to see the Raiders.
I'm sure they'll be very pleased to hear that, Al.
Well, I'm not adverse.
They want to watch the Raiders play.
Well, I want them to watch the Raiders. I want the Raiders to be great.
Ball at the 6-yard line.
There's that halfback
Dallas.
You saw that.
And it's Levette darting through to the 3. Yeah, we kind of cut you out there, Al. What was it you were trying to point out on that?
Oh, no, just that the halfback was cheating. You could just see they were going to run to the left. So many teams now are even going to the point of not disguising what they're going to do. They just do it because the adjustments are so great on defense that they just take a shot without disguising it if they want to hammer it in.
We saw the totals on Levette, who rushed for over 4,000 yards at Georgia Tech. And time called, that clock down to 3 seconds. They've had trouble throughout the evening with that 30-second clock. On some occasions it has been a premature set or run on it, so that the teams are not getting the full 30.
We're going to have to move that clock, that little second clock. I don't think the quarterbacks can honestly see it from all the way in the end zone.
Clock down on the pillar. There it is, below the main scoreboard. That's the one at the far end, away from the play now. But the one that Al Davis is alluding to is down at the Coliseum tunnel.
30-second clock goes back to 30 seconds.
A malfunction, obviously, on that clock. Somebody either not setting it properly or starting it too quickly. Now it starts. Pelluer will have the full count to get this play off.
The score, 14-10. The Raiders lead on a Wilson to Barksdale bomb of 60 yards, but Dallas has come right back to 2nd and goal inside the Raider 4. Todd Fowler, the fullback, 46, with Levette in motion.
Going to hit him in the flat.
And he has to throw it away. Pelluer.
Fred Cornwall was wide open in the end zone.
See, they wanted Levette.
They wanted Levette in the flank. They did, but watch it as Squire gets in there quick enough to take Pelluer's options away from him. Pelluer looking to the tight end. It was wide open.
And they called him in the grasp. Called him in the grasp, and that was a good call at the 12-yard line. A good call in that he was indeed ready to be punished, and we were talking about that earlier, Al. Merlin and myself. Merlin really feels that that has had an impact on the game. The quarterbacks.
I think it's helped the quarterbacks.
Well,
not taking that second shot.
There's no question about it. The way the National Football League, years ago, there were only about 3 teams in the National Football League that believed in pressuring the quarterback, attacking them. And now you've got about at least 18 teams that want to attack the quarterback.
Gordon Banks had it for a moment and then lost it incomplete, and that'll bring up 4th down, and the Cowboys apparently will settle for 3 or an attempt at the field goal.
No team in the National Football League can go into a season anymore realistically expecting their quarterback to hold up the whole season. It's just almost impossible the way we're all attacking the pocket. I know this is a little early, and so both teams, Dallas has always attacked the pocket in the last few years. We will, because number one, you've got to destroy their rhythm early. You've got to knock them down early, and you've got to knock them down hard early, and that's the name of the game, the hits. Not only has to be sacks, it has to be hits.
30 yards away, Zendejas, and he has hit it. With 1 minute and 51 seconds left, a 30-yard field goal by the rookie Zendejas to cut the Raider lead to 14-13.
2 weeks ago, Al, we had a chance to talk to Tex Schramm, Dallas Cowboys, about the impact, the projected impact of Herschel Walker. What do you think Herschel Walker will do for the Cowboys?
Well, number one, I like to say that during the last decade, the Raiders have had the best records in professional sports, professional football, and the Cowboys have been right there with us. And the Cowboys, through their history, have made 3 big moves. Where they didn't have the #1 pick in the draft, they got Too Tall, they got Randy White, and they got Tony Dorsett. And getting Herschel Walker just gives their organization, which has done a fine job, a great lift. It ensures a little bit of their future. Now, when you ask about how they're going to do it, that's something else.
How do you think they'll do it?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. I think, to be candid, it's going to be very tough. First of all, the Raiders do not believe you can win a Super Bowl with a halfback offense. Now, we have probably as fine a halfback as there is in professional football, and we tried to do it last year with the halfback, and we fell short. We have never believed you can win it with a halfback, and the history of Super Bowl champions does not show a halfback offense. All the great runners always played on teams that didn't win the Super Bowl. And I don't know how they're going to. They got a tough job. Herschel's a truly great player. Tony's a truly great player. Playing the 2 of them in the backfield doesn't sound right. And I think one thing you have to say, when there have been 2 great backs in a backfield, there's usually a 3rd guy, an unselfish guy who spots from time to time, who really does the heavy-duty work, so these 2 guys can be great in their own right. But they got a tough job.
That was like your Pete Bonanzac. You'd bring him in there.
Yeah, we bring him in, or we play Hawkins. In '83, we were lucky. We won the Super Bowl with Marcus and King. But it wasn't the type of thing you wanted. But Hawkins was the 3rd guy, the unsung guy. And I just say that it's very difficult. I remember, you go back to the Cleveland Browns.
McCallum. Little daylight for Napoleon McCallum and the 43-yard line. Well, if he should play with you, Marcus and Napoleon, that would be a regal backfield.
Well, I don't know. There again, Napoleon's greatness is his running ability. It's a funny thing. We had a great year drafting running backs this year. And with Marcus Allen, that might be the one spot we're least in need of, see. But I think it's tough, Merlin, and we'll see what happens. I remember with Jim Brown and Leroy Mitchell. I go back to Clement Daniels and Uric Dixon, and it's very tough with two great backs in the backfield.
But it's a nice problem to face.
Oh, yeah, they've got a great future with it because there's a lot they can do. It gives them a lot of room, what I call breathing room. Watch this guy.
Vance Mueller showing his speed to the outside as a first down in the Dallas 44.
Well, Al Davis, we could pick your brain into the wee hours. We thank you for coming over and visiting with us.
It's always great. I hope that NBC has a great year because that would mean the National Football League and, of course, the American Football Conference, and then that silver and black outfit. I hope that we satisfy you. We got a long way to go.
I'm going to send you a red sweater sometime.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for being so nice.
Thank you, Al. There's 1 minute and 35 seconds left in this third quarter in Los Angeles. A game that certainly has developed some interest as we had some offensive punch in this third period. A 14-13 game. And the Raiders' Rusty Hilger fading to the right to throw deep. He's got a man wide open, Mueller, but he can't hang on. Mueller, the rookie, was wide open. A flag is down.
As happens so very often in a game, though, Dick, as the reserves and some of the youngsters have gotten into this game, things have gotten heated. A few more mistakes, and some of those mistakes make for exciting plays.
Illegal motion on the offense, numbers 88 and 42. So 5-yard penalty. First
Both
down will be
Barksdale
replayed.
and Mueller were in motion prematurely.
54 white, 88 black. ISO camera 1, 54 white, camera 6, near side wide receiver. Ready, insert. All tapes record. Drop the insert.
From the 49 of Dallas, 1st and 15. Hilger dumping off. And it's Mueller.
Ready, 5. Take 5.
To the 42, a 7-yard pickup. Hilger from Oklahoma State, where he set most all of the Oklahoma State passing marks. Interesting because out of high school, Oklahoma State was the only school that offered him a scholarship.
Had a tough week last week, sacked 8 times in the second half of that game against San Francisco. Your body has to be awfully sore, and you got to believe there have been a lot of sacks or a lot of hits to go along with those sacks.
In case you're joining us late and wondering what's happening, those are the 4 instant replay monitors that are following Vance Mueller up the middle, and a first down at the 32. And should that have been a controversial play, then the NFL monitoring these replays would try to determine whether or not an error had been made by an official.
Choice there of watching number 54, one of the giants in this game, Randy White.
Insert.
Preseason wave beginning to inundate the Coliseum. First down, Raiders. They lead 14-13, final seconds of the third quarter.
Last play of the quarter. Last play of the quarter.
Hilger with a flag down, incomplete at the end of the third quarter. Intended for tight end Andy Parker.
QFW.
Quarter cannot end if that flag is against the defense.
Ready, 2. Take 2.
No. Against the offensive team.
Okay, so that's the end of the quarter.
So they'll mark off the 10 yards against the Raiders, and they'll switch ends of the field.
Holding, number 69 on the offense.
And so, the end of the third period in the Coliseum with the score. The Raiders 14, the Cowboys 13. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
3, 2, 1.
Raiderettes, part of the entertainment here at the Coliseum on this delightful summer evening. Typical Southern California night with it cooling off a bit, clear skies, warm enough that the players certainly get a good workout and yet pleasant for the fans. The Raiders have the ball. We open the fourth quarter. First down and 20 after the holding call. Hilger gives to Mueller, and Mueller tripped up at the 39-yard line. Through 3 quarters, these are the numbers.
Offensive action heating up. Both teams putting a few more yards on the board, but these are not significant offensive numbers. First half dominated by the defenses. The Cowboys still with a healthy almost a 10-minute lead in time of possession. Of course, the score just a 1-point difference. The Raiders lead 14-13.
And looking for more behind their third-string quarterback, Russell "Rusty" Hilger. He was a 6th-round pick last year. Threw only 13 passes last season, completed 4. Sends Mueller in motion and throws toward him. And throws behind him out of bounds as Mueller was well covered by Victor Scott, who was in position for an interception. Cowboys scored first late in the second quarter on veteran Rafael Septien's 42-yard field goal. And just before the end of the half, Plunkett took the Raiders the full length of the field and threw to Steve Strahan a 14-yard score, 7-3 at the half. In the third quarter, Robert Levette a 1-yard touchdown run after an interception of a Mark Wilson pass that positioned the Cowboys deep in the Raider end. And then the biggest play of the night, Wilson to Barksdale, a 60-yard touchdown, and Zendejas cutting into the lead with a 30-yard field goal. Opening the fourth quarter, 14-13 Raiders. This play 3rd down and about 17. Hilger to Barksdale, and he hangs onto the ball despite a pretty good lick. Ron Fellows, a 12-yard gain, not good enough for a first down.
Barksdale getting a chance to work on a situation last year where he could not play because of injury, but learned a lot about football in that year, and putting that knowledge to use here tonight, showing some good toughness on that catch.
The field goal unit comes on for the Raiders. It'll be a fairly long one, 44-45 yards. Mark Wilson will be the holder as Hilger comes out. Clock is already at 17 seconds.
I think they're going to have to call a timeout here. There was some confusion getting the field goal team on the field.
10 seconds on the clock.
Well, here they go.
Chris Barr, the veteran from Penn State, to try a 45-yard field goal.
No time. Oh, they got it off.
And Barr gets it through. Chris Barr connecting from 45. He hit a 44-yarder in the first quarter. Here behind number 16, Steve Pelluer on the Cowboys sidelines. He'll be in uniform next week. Cal State Fullerton rookie Vince Abbott will kick off for the Raiders. Cal State Fullerton is where the Los Angeles Rams have their summer training camp. High but very short. Taken by Duckett at the 19, 30, 35, and tripped up from behind at the 42-yard line. Zeph Lee, number 40, a rookie from Southern California, made the tackle. Good return by Kenny Duckett of Wake Forest, a 3rd-round pick of New Orleans back in '82.
He's playing the numbers game. So many of these youngsters know that roster drops to 60 on Tuesday, and they know that there are about 30 players on this field who are not going to be on these teams. That's a sad time. I'll tell you, this first cut is painful, and the next cuts after that even more painful.
As one of them said, I hope we don't smell bus fumes near our window, because it'll be a busload they carry out of both camps on Tuesday. Trailing 17-13, Pelluer going to work. Levette again, and hasn't he had a night? 15 more yards for Levette before Stephon Adams can make the tackle.
Stephon Adams on the stop.
Inside the Raider 45.
Let's go and look at Thornton Chandler, number 96, as they pull both guard and tackle around. Chandler working inside does a good job of driving his man off the line, and then Levette, who is, well, I tell you, whatever they said to him before this game, they ought to have tape recorded the message.
He's gained 62 yards tonight rushing, but well over 100 yards total. Todd Fowler teaming with him in the backfield behind Pelluer. Raider 44-yard line, play action. Pelluer scrambling and throws incomplete. And Jack Squire, no, it was Jerry Robertson, an All-American at UCLA, played his college ball on this turf. Came to the Raiders last year from the Eagles for a number 2 pick. They retired his uniform number over at UCLA, wore 84 with the Bruins.
Took him a while to fit into this Raider defensive system, but he is an impact player with great speed. You see how quickly he is on Pelluer, and that was a judgment call by Bob Frederick. had to judge whether he was in the grass, and then had to judge whether that was intentional grounding. His choice was that the ball was being thrown and grounded itself. Incomplete pass.
2nd and 10. Pallure. Good protection. Over the middle to Thornton Chandler, and the young tight end is to the 38-yard line, and it's Robinson making the tackle downfield. So there's the versatility and the range of 57 Robinson on the quarterback. One play, now watch him.
Trying to control the big tight end who drives him outside, and then sensing that the play had broken down, he becomes the receiver back inside. That's tough. Rolling outside and throwing to a tight end going the opposite way. Not an easy pass to throw.
His dad, Thornton Chandler's dad, was a teammate of former Cowboy Bob Hayes, Bullet Bob Hayes, on that Florida A&M team. 3rd, a long 5. And it's complete at the 30 to Levette, and a first down. Boy, Levette is doing everything but making that 30-second clock function.
I think that's the kind of thing we're going to see more of from these Dallas Cowboys. Talking to Paul Hackett, one of the things he said, I asked him, how will your offense be different? And again, we have to say that they have not taken the wraps off the new part of their offense. But he said one of the things you're going to see definitely is more passes to the running backs, more involvement in the passing game by the running backs.
So Danny White with a signal a la pair of scissors. They try to cut into that 4-point lead of the Raiders, 17-13, with 10.5 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter. Pallure going for 6, has a man free, but overshoots him. It appeared to be Gordon Banks. Might have been Sherrard. Let's check it. Sherrard. Brad Cochran, another rookie, All-America against All-America on the coverage.
Rookie against rookie. But let's go inside and look at the pressure on Pallure. Jerry Robinson rushing right there over the top of Todd Fowler and goes right into a sandwich. The 2 linebackers, Lyndon King and Robinson. You see Robinson taking the call from Bob Seaman on the sideline to relay it to the team. Raiders, interesting, Dick. They are actually 2 signals at times. Willie Brown will be signaling sometimes to his defensive backs what he wants in the way of an adjustment. That's new complexity to the game.
2nd and 10 from the Raider 30, and Pallure calls time, and he just did beat that 30-second clock. He hit it right at 1. We have a timeout in the Coliseum. 10.5 minutes remain. And Tom Landry, the Cowboys, trying to come up with something to elude a losing preseason. That is uncommon for the Cowboys. The Raiders, as I said earlier, 1-3 the last 3 years.
Now, one of the questions we did not get to ask Al Davis was about his #1 pick, Bob Gutowski, who's had back problems and not on the field here tonight. In fact, their concern is that they may have to put him into surgery to solve that problem, which would be a real loss for them. They're very high on this young man, and when he was healthy, Earl Leggett, the defensive line coach, said, we just think he's something special. But interesting.
Gutowski from Pittsburgh, a 270-pound defensive lineman. Talked to him yesterday. He said, boy, anyone who's ever had back pains. You see that Scott Pallure is saying call time, and apparently
they're saying he didn't get a call in time. Yes.
Before the 30-second clock had chewed up that final second.
Timeout to Dallas.
So he
there was
won
a delay in the game. 5-yard penalty.
No, he didn't. 5-yard penalty. And did they charge him with a timeout too?
I think what they're saying is that he didn't get it called in time. That it was still a penalty, but they're going to charge him with a timeout anyway. I mean, that's a double penalty.
That's what's happened. So it's 2nd and 15 from the Raider 35. Now they're saying officially no charge of the timeout, even though the scoreboard had indicated one had been consumed. Flag down. Complete. Levette weaving his way inside the 20 and finally out of bounds to the 14. But I believe the Cowboys had a back who was not set, was moving at the snap. 21 yards if it counts. But I believe this will be a motion penalty against Dallas.
offensive holding, number 68, and illegal motion, number 29 on the offense.
Well, they're in double
They'll have their choice.
jeopardy of the last couple of calls, aren't they?
Big Daddy Crawford Kerr a little too anxious there. You know, one of the things that Dallas is doing different, there are several things that are different about them this year, but the offensive line, one of their trademarks for years was that up and down motion just as they hit the line, the little yo-yo motion, and used to irritate me. I don't know why it did. In fact, one time, Phil, my brother Phil, who's in the booth with us, when he was playing next to me for the Rams, the first play of the game, when they did that little up and down, we just leveled them. We said, you can take the 5 yards. They weren't too happy with us.
If you want to draw us offside, okay. There you got it.
Gave them the 5 yards. But they're not doing that anymore.
They took the 10-yard hold here, obviously, so it's second and 25. Out of the shotgun, Plorg down the middle.
Good play. Thornton Chandler again. Sandwiched by Turan and James Davis, but not until he picked up significant yardage, and that's a good play. You know you're not going to get it all in one whack anyway, so you pick up a part of it, get yourself down there, and even if you can't get that first down, perhaps you get yourself in position to kick a field goal. But now, instead of looking like at extreme long yardage, you're looking at third and about 13 yards.
Chandler, a 6th round pick, and you see why Landry calls this the best group of tight ends he's ever had. Doug Cosby, Fred Cornwell, Brian Solonen from last year, plus Thornton Chandler and the veteran Junior Miller all in camp. He'll go with 3. Incomplete on the near sidelines, intending to hit Gordon Banks. And that'll bring up 4th down and 13.
Well,
Other flag down?
no, I don't think so. The decision now is they're going to kick it. They're going to try the long field goal here.
Here comes Septien. Raphael Septien, who had back problems, leg cramps in the playoffs last year, was 19 for 28. His longest is just over that 50 mark. And this one would be about 51. Could be a fake. They're down by 4. Nope. He drills it. It's good. Cleared the crossbar by about a foot. 51 yards for Septien. And the man, a veteran, fighting for a job. You bet he's celebrating that 3-pointer.
Septien, long and true on this one. I'll tell you, when a veteran has a job and you bring a man in, it's like a knockout. You got to really knock him out of there.
The Raiders lead. We're midway through the training camp that must seem like years for the players.
Cowboys have been in 6 weeks, and I'll tell you, even 4 weeks is a long time. I used to go crazy.
Didn't you do macrame and things like that?
No, I did. I took about 10 projects with me. I did collages one year. One year I took all my pictures and slides to catalog, and I always had a whole shelf full of books. It was a tough time for me, Dick.
Do you agree with Al Davis? It should be 2 preseason and 18 regular season?
I think the reason it should be shorter today is because the athletes are coming into camp in shape at a time when they wanted the athletes to, or when we used that time. I used to come in without running a step, and we'd use those preseason games in that time to get into shape. These athletes are working out 12 months out of the year. They come in shape. They're ready to start. They don't need 4 or 5 preseason games to get ready. I agree with what he said. I think it's time to shorten it.
And they used a new ball. Didn't like the last one. 60,248 tickets sold and 52,153 in attendance. A final Houston first place in the West, beating Atlanta 7-4. The Angels trying to gain a game on Texas. They lead 2.5 going in, but Texas lost earlier today at Toronto. The Angels lead 4-1 against Oakland over at Anaheim. Septien kicking toward McCollum, but kicked short, picked up by one of the men in the wedge and carrying it out to the 39-yard line. A 15-yard pickup on the return. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television network.
This is WNBC TV, New York.
Ronnie James, a rookie, bringing back that last kickoff. Dick Enberg with Merlin Olsen at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, where the Raiders, champions of the AFC West last year, they were 12-4 against the Cowboys, the NFC Eastern champions, 10-6, and it's a one-point game as Rusty Hilger, the third-string quarterback of the Raiders, takes the snap at the 39 and gives to Zepp Lee, who was not a regular starter, a spot player with the Southern California Trojans, and the Raiders feel they got themselves a real quality potential young back, but he's working against the numbers. Is Lee, who was a 9th-round selection, third cousin to the late Ricky Bell, the great tailback with the Trojans who passed away last year.
Number 54, Randy White, still in this ball game, getting a lot of action. I'm sure part of that because he wants to play.
See Don Smirek also in there, number 60.
Well, they really were sad to see Kevin Brooks go down. They said that he'd had the finest training camp of any of their linemen, and really had earned himself a starting opportunity, but went down with an injury.
17-16 with a timeout. 44-yard line, 2nd down and 5 for the Raiders. Ronnie James, a rookie from Grambling. Zepp Lee, a rookie from Southern California, in the backfield behind Hilger. And Hilger going long and completes it to Mark Pattison for a touchdown. Pattison from Washington, a first-year wide receiver.
Said he was not sure that Pattison would be able to play tonight. He's had some leg problems. Well, play he does. And watch how he concentrates on this football, takes it over the outstretched hands of Manny Hendricks, and then fights away from Hendricks, who had a hold of his leg, to carry it in for the touchdown.
Pattison, who grew up in Seattle, went to Washington, idolized Steve Largent, and many feel that he has a lot of the same talents. Good feet, terrific hands, not a blazing speed, but quick and fast enough. And he has 6 on a 56-yard play. Vince Abbott, the kicker, for the extra point. And the Raider lead is now 8 points, 24-16, 8 minutes left.
Tonight's game is brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Burger King. This is a Burger King town. We know how burgers should be. And by supercharged Energizer batteries. No battery in the world outlasts it.
8 minutes and 2 seconds remain in the 4th quarter in Los Angeles. The Raiders have struck again their vertical game. Rusty Hilger to Mark Pattison, a 56-yard touchdown. This is a point worth noting. Last year, the Raiders were unable to connect on the long throw. They had only two touchdown passes over 40 yards all year. They have 2 over 50 tonight. Barksdale 60 yards from Wilson, and Pattison now 56 from Hilger. 24-16, plenty of time for the Cowboys, who trail now by 8. Kick is short. Lavette wrapped up at the 25-yard line. The shoe goes flying, it appears. Just a flip 20 feet in the air. Brad Tubbs, a rookie wide receiver, with a tackle. There's Hilger. They're fond of his arm. He showed a terrific deep throw. You were talking about the Cowboys, and with all the flush offensively of getting Herschel Walker and signing Mike Sherrard this week, lost in all that was a big disappointment. The injury to Kevin Brooks, a kneecap injury last week at San Diego. He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks, and they wanted him to help out that aging defensive line. It's going to be a considerable loss for them. They were 20th in the NFL in defense last year, Dallas was. Out of bounds at the 31.
There was perhaps a silver lining to that, because the choice was obviously, do you just ice that down and let him rest for a while and bring him back, or do you put him under the arthroscopic surgery? Their decision was to put him to the surgery. They found loose pieces of cartilage, which they removed, Had they not gone in, he probably would have gone down later in the year. So it was a good choice for them. And they feel he'll be back playing in 8 weeks. So he'll be back in time to help them substantially.
2nd down and 4. And Levette, no hold at all, does a nice little twist and turn and picks up a couple through the center, and he's close to a 1st down out at the 34-yard line. We can do away with one piece of business. There's the Budweiser most valuable player tonight, Robert Levette. He has really worked to earn that. He's done everything.
I like that. I like that. He's really come out of the pack to do it. In fact, if we had taken a poll about most likely or least likely, he'd have been more likely to win the least likely.
That's right. 3rd down and a yard.
Pelor again having trouble with that 30-second clock. It was down to 2. He knew he couldn't get the play off. It's difficult for young quarterbacks to get into the speed of things, to call the plays.
Their 2nd team timeout in this half.
In particular when the plays are complex.
And so the Cowboys, trailing by 8, have only 1 timeout remaining. A busy week of sport east, and will be challenged by the Dodgers Wednesday night over Dodger Stadium, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Tune in for our prime time baseball coverage. Gypsy Boots will probably be there. And of course, Gary Carter, the catcher, with an injury today, and he's on the disabled list.
Now, with all the excitement about getting Herschel Walker here for the Cowboys, one interesting story surfaces. Bill Bates, when he was a sophomore at Tennessee, Herschel's freshman year, they were opened with Tennessee in Knoxville. Billy Bates said, he said, I'll never forget it. He said they kept telling us about this freshman back, and they didn't get him in the game until about the 2nd quarter, and we controlled him pretty well. We were ahead by about 15 points. Came in the 3rd quarter. They started driving the ball down the field, got to about the 20-yard line, and they blitzed. They gave the ball to Herschel, and he said, here came Herschel. And he said, I was about the 15-yard line, and he said, I got into a great position. He said, I thought Herschel was going to dodge. He just ran right over the top of me. He said, I really felt awful until I rolled around and watched Herschel run over 3 of my teammates going into the end zone. So Billy Bates has already met Herschel. He's glad he's coming to be a Cowboy.
When we were talking with him, I put my hand on his back, and it was like putting it on one of those old washboards. There's so many ripples of hard muscle. 1st down for Todd Fowler as he drives across the 35-yard line. Jamie Kimmel made the tackle. Only 3 pairs of backs in NFL history have gained 1,000 yards each in a season. Of course, that Sonka kick combo with the Dolphins in '72. Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier for the Steelers in '76. And then last year, Kevin Mack, Ernest Biner of the Browns. And of course, a Dorsett Walker combination conjures up thoughts of at least 1,000 yards each. If most of those combinations had people who could block in them.
Oh, look out.
Pelor on play action under pressure finds his man at the 49 of the Raiders. And it's Kenny Duckett.
Elvis Franks, number 94, who had a fine game last week, in there to put the heat on Pelor.
X is next.
At the Raider 49.
And go to X. Stand by dissolve X. Dissolve X. Stand by to come back to Cameron. Go X. Go X.
You know, that doesn't go down as a sack, Dick, as you see Pelor having trouble getting away. But that's the kind of recovery problem that quarterbacks have the day after a game. They take a lot of helmets to the chest.
1st down at the Raider 49. Again, Pelor off play action. Throws to this side, complete to Fowler, his fullback, 35-30, and down the sidelines to the 27. Jerry Robinson makes the tackle, and the Cowboys moving 23 more yards.
Right there. Go to X. End zone.
Little swing pattern out there, missed by Squarick, who was not able to stay with Fowler on that play, but quick close by Robinson. Again, you see how quick he is as a linebacker. There are going to be some tough choices deciding who that final 45 are going to be.
Oh, not just here, around the league, especially with the availability of so many players from the USFL.
Both these teams are going to have to turn loose some fine football players.
On the 1st down, it's Levette up the middle, and Robert Levette Our player of the game down to the 16-yard line.
Stephon Adams on the trip.
Stephon Adams makes the tackle. The clock running at 5:15. Dallas like to get a touchdown, cut that Raider lead to 1, and hope they get one more possession. Levette now with 80 yards rushing and around 100.5 for the game total.
Both these coaches have to be pleased that their offenses are much more productive tonight. Although it, as we mentioned, the early part of this game again dominated by defense. Certainly the second team offenses have been much more productive tonight than they were in the last couple of weeks.
Clock down to 3 seconds, and it's Fowler, the fullback, to the 15-14, and it appears that'll be enough for a first down. The Raiders stole the football. Is it a turnover or not?
Have they blown a dead? I think they may have blown a dead, Dick. Question there of that's another opportunity for the NFL's replay unit to.
Yeah, but you couldn't tell when the whistle blew.
First down, forward progress stopped up here while the offensive team were in possession of the ball. First down and 10.
Bob Frederick pretty forceful about it.
That he had blown the whistle.
And indeed, you know, that occasionally there is a real problem looking at the replay because sound is important. When did a whistle blow? Let's watch it here. That ball bounces out relatively early. When did that whistle blow?
Apparently before the fumble. First down at the 14. Pelluer looking to the end zone for Chandler. Incomplete. Incidental bump by James Davis as the tight end trying to get free in the corner.
Looking at Chandler, you mentioned used primarily as a blocker. That good range and long arms. There's the bump you talked about. It wasn't long ago that would have been flagged instantly.
And had he not been tripped, possibly a touchdown for Dallas. Pelluer throwing the football well. 9 for 14. Clock stopped with 4 minutes 16 seconds left in the fourth quarter. 24-16 Raiders. On 2nd and 10. Blitz is on. Pelluer has to eat it. Number 62, Brian O'Neill, a defensive tackle. A rookie makes the hit.
O'Neill, when he stepped into that uniform, I think figured he had to fight at least a couple of times a week to earn the right to be a Raider. I guess he and one of the backup centers, number 51,
Lewis.
Yeah, young Lewis have really duked it out in training camp.
5 sacks for the Raiders. They're good at that sort of thing. Ball at the 18. 3rd down and 13. Good protection. And the throw is there at the 10-yard line to number 83, Speedy Gonzalez.
Got to be impressed with Pelluer. Has had a fine second half here. I'm sure that Landry knew he was taking a risk when he traded away Gary Hogeboom. But Pelluer certainly showing here this evening that he's a worthy successor to that number 2 quarterbacking role.
Ball at the 10-yard line, 4th and about 7. So the Cowboys send in Zendejas to try to get the 3 and hope that they can get the ball again for a possible touchdown. And a time is called by the Raiders. They were having trouble getting all their players off the field. Didn't want to take a 5-yard penalty.
Dick, I started to mention earlier.
For their first timeout in this half. They have 2 more remaining in the half.
I'm glad we got that straight. I started to mention earlier that when a veteran player is being challenged, and in particular a kicker, it's kind of like a champion boxer. You've got to really knock him out of his job. You don't get the job by being just as good as he is. And actually both kickers, Chris Barb coming off certainly for him a less than exciting year. And he's being challenged this year, as is Septien. But again, these youngsters who are there challenging really have to show that they are clearly superior.
I remember last year about this time it was the cousin of Max Zendejas. Tony Zendejas was trying to take Mark Mosley's job at Washington, and Mosley wasn't beaten out. In fact, I see where Mosley's overtime
fighting again.
He kicked a 51-yarder last night to win it in overtime for the Redskins.
Well, I guess they're challenging him again, though, because he's under pressure, but apparently being productive. Although he had missed a shot at about a 27-yarder with 4 seconds left to go in that game, that would have given them the game outright. At least he came back and put it through in the overtime.
Kind of the law of the football jungle, isn't it? The old tough it is to say goodbye. And
very hard for Al Davis, who's strong on loyalty, and those are productive people who've been here a long time.
28-yard attempt by Zendejas, and the Cowboys are within a touchdown with 3 minutes remaining in the game. It's 24-19 Raiders.
There's one of the gentlemen you just mentioned, Cliff Branch, and I'll tell you, if you followed these Raiders over the years, you've seen him with the football crossing the end line many times.
501 career catches for Cliff Branch, and that doesn't count some brilliant efforts in 3 Super Bowl wins. Dalby, on the other hand, who has been just stellar at that center position, took over himself from Jim Otto, and Dalby played for 15 years. There he is. His temples are graying, and so is that beard. It's salt and pepper if he were to turn around. Big guy from UCLA. And Don Mospar now has become the starting center, only the 3rd in Raider history.
Haven't been that many, for sure.
There you see the gray in the beard. This is the 6th home stadium for the Raiders. Give you a chance to think about how many of the other 5 you can name. Or other 5 were up in the Bay Area.
I think I played a couple of them, but I couldn't have named them all, believe me.
Well, I remember the first one. I'm going to take that one, and that was Frank Ewell Field.
Ewell Field.
Back in '60.
Little low stands around it. Didn't have too many people around. Didn't have to worry about many fans in those days.
They have high school fields a lot bigger than that. Stadiums in Texas, many of them. Septien to kick off. 24-19 the score. Fulton Walker at the 8. 20 and down at the 21-yard line. Number 53 of the Cowboys, Garth Jax, J-A-X, had a good game in a disappointing showing in San Diego last week. But the Cowboys were offside on the kickoff. There's Jax.
You hate that. You hate special teams in this preseason get very exhausting and boring, and you hate it when somebody goes offside. You got to go back and run that 70-yard sprint again.
Well, maybe the Raiders are going to be kind and decline the penalty.
I don't think they want to return it again.
And the penalty will be declined. It would be a 1st down and 10.
Exhaustion is the better part of solid decision making. And it's Thurman, the veteran who knows better, was offside.
I think he's grateful that they didn't make him go again.
So now with 2 minutes and 52 seconds left, it's a matter of whether the Raiders can run out the clock or whether the Cowboys, with only 1 timeout remaining, can stop them in 4 downs and get a final shot, trailing by 5. Hawkins to the 26, or make that Ronnie James. Ronnie James, number 47. He's a 220-pounder. Played at Grambling.
One of the things coaches look for at a time like this in the ball game is obviously the big plays by youngsters, by rookies. The other thing they want to see is when the pressure is on, do they make mistakes? This is not a time to make a mistake, and I'm sure that Cowboys looking to strip that football. The Raiders, I'm sure, have told their running backs put both arms on that ball.
Basically all 2nd and 3rd line players, some 4th liners. Shooting through is Ronnie James, and a 1st down. And that should just about do it. He's out to the 37-yard line before Russ Swan, number 43, a rookie backer, can make the stop. And the clock will now tick down to the 2-minute warning, or not.
Cowboys have used their timeout, you remember earlier, so they're not going to be able to stop the clock.
Player for tonight's game indeed is Robert Levette of the Dallas Cowboys. Budweiser will donate $1,000 to the United Way on behalf of Levette, who certainly played a solid game and was the most exciting player on the field. And the rest of the where of the Raiders played, along with the Coliseum and Frank Ewell Field. Here are the other home sites. Kezar Stadium, also former home of the 49ers, Candlestick Park, Ewell Field, of course the Oakland Coliseum, and this one you may not have gotten. In fact, Merlin, you played a game there in the preseason at Berkeley against the Raiders.
Played a game against the Raiders there when Darryl LaMonica, the Mad Bomber, was there and throwing to Cliff Branch among others. They were ahead by about 30 points before I looked up the scoreboard. I said, we just got this game started. How did they get all those points on the board?
That was Tommy Prothrow's first year as head coach of the Rams.
We got shelled, I can tell you that.
First down. Dallas can call one timeout. That may not be enough time. It's James.
Look out.
And he has another first down out to the 48-yard line. Now, the only problem with that is that should he fumble the ball, that's the one thing the Cowboys are looking for.
Just an afterthought. Remembering that particular game you talked about, Tommy Prothrow had us staying out in Concord, which is a long ways away. Didn't know about the parking problems at that stadium at Berkeley. And we got there. Our first bus got there 45 minutes before the game. The second bus got there 10 minutes before the game. Now you want to talk about players rushing in, throwing on their uniforms.
No wonder you were down 30. You were down 30 before you realized.
We didn't get started in that game, believe me.
Minute 19 left. Just an exercise now for the Raiders, who apparently will win their first preseason game. Ronnie James plowing forward. Boy, he looks like he's tough to stop. He's to the 47-yard line, 6 more yards as we come down to the 1-minute mark. Executive producer Michael Weissman, coordinating producer Ted Nathanson. Tonight's game was produced by George Finkel and directed by John Gonzalez. And it was good to have John J. Filippelli, our NFL 86 coordinating producer, with us. And there are all the other men and women who made it possible. Joe Costanza, Jeff Goldberg, Andy Apodaca, Jim Fells, Louis Weiner, Phil Olson, all helping us with the action here in the booth. 32 seconds, probably the last play of the game. And it goes to James again. And the Cowboys have a timeout. Will they spend it?
You know, it was nice to be able to go down into the truck and see the kind of work that is done behind the scenes to bring these fine games to the people out there who enjoy watching NFL football.
And down in the truck, they're counting 4, 3, 2, 1. 19 seconds to go and a chance to fellas that focus in on the action. Those cameramen are incredible. Not only their talent and being able to follow the ball, to have to know the game, to anticipate where that ball might be going. And the sound so very important in the video. Well, we're getting ready. I'm anxious for this season to start.
I'm pumped up too. And speaking of video, maybe the toughest job left after this game is over for these two teams is to go back and look at these films and figure out which of these players, and many of these youngsters have played very well tonight, which of those youngsters is not going to be around on Tuesday. And this is the tough time. I mentioned it earlier, but it really is. It's a sad time in the training camps.
Some good players will be looking for work. So this is just take a snap and Rusty Hilger to put it in the nest. And 16 seconds, and this one is over. So at the Coliseum, the Dallas Cowboys, it'll be a rare preseason for them. They will not have a winning record. They're 0-3 as they leave Los Angeles, and soon they will leave Thousand Oaks, their camp, and head home to Dallas. Stay tuned for Saturday Night Live following local news, except on the West Coast and most Mountain Zone stations, where it will be seen at its regular time. The Raiders have beaten Dallas 24-19, and as Tom Landry searches out his counterpart Tom Flores, it was the long bomb, a typical Raider win of yore, that did it for Los Angeles.
I don't think either coach is going to be too disappointed with this evening. You'd like to win, but your priorities are very specific. Landry and Flores both know that they're going to have winning seasons, and they're both getting their teams ready for that opening game.
And for Tom Flores, all 3 of his quarterbacks threw a touchdown pass. Plunkett's of the shorter variety gave the Raiders a lead at the half. And then there were the bombs by Wilson to Barksdale of 60 yards and Hilger to Mark Pattison for 56 yards. It spelled the difference. As the Cowboys were scoring on field goals, the Raiders were getting the long bomb. Well, it's been a delightful night of football here in Los Angeles. For Merlin Olsen, this is Dick Enberg. There'll be no instant replay, but there's a lot of fun ahead on NBC.